Hey guys, this is part 12 of the testimony transcripts readings from the Jonathan Majors trial. If you want to read them on your own time or revisit anything, there are searchable PDFs in the description. You'll see a Google Drive folder. Today we're going to be looking at Officer Swayne's testimony. It's a little bit longer than Holly Blakey's testimony if you tuned in yesterday. This is 66 pages. That was like 36. So it'll be a little bit longer of a read, plus we're going to look at his body cam footage. I'm going to try to line it up as they play it through the testimony. I also have Sergeant Hanson's body cam footage at the ready because Sergeant Hanson had a view of Officer Swayne for most of the footage. So we'll try to interpolate all of those things together, see how it lines up, see what we think of Officer Swayne's testimony, and go from there. So jumping right into the reading. And actually, housekeeping, for the AV to the 7th power stream, I have to touch base with her. I haven't actually heard from her, so I will get clarity on that. Sorry if you guys were waiting yesterday at some point for that stream to go live on her channel, but I will give you an update when something is scheduled for sure, so that way, you guys can join us for that. But jumping into the testimony here, the judge says, "Good afternoon to you. Do the people have a witness?" So the people call Officer Brendan Swain. Thank you. And remember, this was week 1. This was Friday, week 1. The very first thing that morning, Grace Jabari had a very short redirect, and then Holly Blakey testified, and then Officer Swayne is called as the next and final witness for that Friday to wrap up week 1. So Officer Swayne enters. He takes his oath. "Officer, please state your name, shield, and command for the record." Officer Swayne, shield 20172, 10th Precinct. "Good afternoon, officer. Interesting. I actually thought he went to work for a different precinct, but here he says he's still with the 10th precinct. "Good afternoon, officer." "Good afternoon. Officer, if you hear the word objection, don't understand until you hear me rule." I think he means don't answer until you hear me rule. "Mr. Perez," so that's the one of the ADAs. "May I inquire, Judge?" "Yes." So direct examination begins. And then, "Hey, Miss Lady, you actually had a really great comment on the part 11, Holly Blakey's. It was very insightful. I didn't get a chance to go through and start replying to comments yet, but you said a lot of very insightful things in a short YouTube comment. And anyone else that got to catch up on Holly Blakey's testimony, if you've had like a night to marinate on it, let me know what you guys are thinking about that. And that's okay, Juanita. I'm replay crew all the time for other channels, so, be replay crew for me. It's totally okay. Glad you tuned in, though. And then, let's see. "You mentioned that you're a member of the New York City Police Department when you introduce yourself." "Yeah, I'm Officer Swayne, 10th Precinct. I've been an officer for 7 years. What is your current command?" 10th Precinct. "Can you explain for the members of the jury the geographic area the 10th Precinct covers?" "Yeah, we cover West 14th Street to West 43rd Street from 7th Avenue to 12th Avenue. What did you do before the 10th Precinct?" "I was in the academy for 6 months." "And what is your current role within the 10th Precinct?" "Currently, I'm one of the domestic violence prevention officers." "Can you explain what a domestic violence prevention officer does?" "Yeah, we basically follow up with domestic violence victims. We look at body camera from previous domestic incidents that our patrol officers respond to, and we try to get services to our victims when needed." "You just mentioned you dropped the title patrol officer. What does that mean?" "These are the ones that are responding to the 911 calls in the police car." "What, if any, training did you receive in order to become a domestic violence officer?" "Basically, I just got trained with the previous domestic violence prevention officer, as well as a few NYPD domestic violence trainings." "Can you explain what the process was for assuming that position?" "I had a good amount of experience with handling domestic violence jobs for, I think, 2 to 3 years before becoming a domestic violence officer. I was in a sector which means I was responding to these 911 calls on patrol. In the sector that I was handling, there's a lot of, or a decent amount, of domestic violence jobs." So it seems like he may have worked in like a particular area is what he's getting at, and that domestic violence just seems to run rampant there. Maybe. "When you say jobs," it is kind of weird that he's saying jobs, but I guess technically they are jobs. "And when you say jobs, can you explain what that means?" "Responding to 911 calls." "Each particular incident that you respond to is what you refer to as a job?" "Yeah." "About how many domestic violence arrests have you made in your career?" "Probably about 35 to 40. How many domestic violence incidences, or jobs, as you referred to it earlier, have you responded to? So the prosecution wants to keep saying this phrase. That's what's going on here. Perez wants to keep saying, like, I know he's saying jobs, but how many domestic violence incidents or jobs, as you refer it to? So you get that game there. Hundreds, maybe even thousands. I'm directing your attention to March 25th of 2023. Were you working that day? Yes. Who were you working with? My partner, Officer Lucero. Lucero. How long had Officer Lucero been your partner? Just that day. On March 25th of 2023, did you respond to an incident? Yes. And, see, it's not a job anymore. And as a result of responding to that incident, did you make an arrest? Yes. Who did you arrest? Jonathan Majors. Would you recognize Mr. Majors if you saw him in the courtroom? Yes. We stipulate to his identity, so Chaudhry's like, you don't need to point him out. We know who he is. The jury knows who he is. Perez says, sorry, can you answer the question? Yes. Okay, thank you. And if you look around, can you identify him by an article of clothing? Yes. And then Chaudhry jumps in. Your Honor, we've stipulated to Mr. Majors' identity. Gaffey says, okay, as I told you, the people can go forward with their case. Go ahead. So Perez jumps back in. Please look around the courtroom. If you see Mr. Majors, if you could identify him by an article of clothing. It's the black suit jacket, black tie. Okay. And then, so verbally, the judge says, okay, indicating Mr. Majors. 88 Perez says, thank you. Can you explain to the members of the jury how you arrived or became involved in this incident on March 25th of 2023? So, I was covering patrol that day. We responded to a 911 call. What was the 911 call for? I believe it came over as a suicidal person. What was the location of what location did the 911 call direct you to go to? 252 7th Avenue. That's in Manhattan? Yeah. Yes. Approximately what time did you receive that call? I believe around 11 a.m. Where were you when you received the call? A few blocks away. Because remember, it only took them like just shy of 4 minutes to pull up. Oh yeah, because here we go. How long did it take you to arrive at the scene? No more than 5 minutes, I would say. As you mentioned earlier, you were with Officer Lucero at this time? Yes. Can you explain for the members of the jury what you first observed when you first got to the location? Well, when we walked into the lobby, we were met by Mr. Majors. Where was he? He was in the lobby. Just to ask a full question so we can have this played, were you wearing body camera? Yes. Can you explain what the body camera is for the members of the jury? Every 911 call we respond to, we have to activate our body-worn cameras to get the entire interaction. And your body camera was functional that day? Yes. And did your body camera record the entirety of the incident that you responded to at 11 a.m. on March 25th of 2023? And it's interesting because I guess technically it did record everything that he responded to, but it's interesting because the incident at the center of this case is not the incident that they're responding to in this penthouse closet floor. So, just a weird thing there. So Swain says yes, that it did capture the entirety. I'm showing you what I'm marking as People's Exhibit 19 for identification. Now, I'm wondering if these exhibits are numbered in order. I don't think I remember an Exhibit 18 being mentioned, but whatever the prosecution is sending me is Exhibits 1 through 19. 19, I already have it because that came out with some of the press had the body cam footage. So I have that pulled from them, but, presumably something else that we haven't seen the media put out there, TMZ hasn't put out there, could be in those Exhibits 1 through 19. I'm assuming it'll probably be like 2 to 3 weeks before they say, hey, we received your money order, your check. Here's the digital copies of the files. But as soon as I get those, I'll re-upload those copies direct from the state. We'll have the exact exhibits digitally delivered, and I'll upload them. That way we know they're complete, in full, whatever may have you. If you missed the stream yesterday, I did mention that they inferred that there are other exhibits beyond Exhibits 1 through 19 that are currently under seal that cannot be released because the case is still active. So if there comes a point in time where other things become public, I'll put in another request for freedom of information is FOIL in New York State. So I'll put in a FOIL request, get those additional exhibits, and get them out there with you guys. Oh, am I skipping? Oh, no. I'm direct Ethernet. I'm not even on Wi-Fi. I wonder if it's because I have the videos pulled in. Hold on, you guys. Can you put, like, in the chat if you're noticing it skipped too? That way we make sure it's not just Ernest. Not trying to put Ernest on the spot, but because the only thing I could think it would be is I have the Bodycam videos pulled up. And yes, there's not going to be any audio in them. Okay, so Ernest, give me an update. So we've got okay from Solo and okay from Miss Lady. If you just jumped in, it might be like buffering to catch you up. So if not, you guys let me know if it starts working funny, especially as we start playing these videos. So what I'm going to do, StreamYard kind of autoplays it once I start clicking into a video. You're going to see me pause it a lot to try to keep pace with the timestamps they're using during the testimony. That way we can kind of get the impression of, remember, this is only going to be Officer Swayne watching it, I think, at this point. It's not being shown to the court. It's only being shown to Swayne at this point in time. But you can pretend we're Swayne in the seat, seeing what he's looking at as he's being asked to answer specific questions. So, okay, yes, I'm so glad. So they bring up People's 19 to the witness. Officer Swayne, do you recognize what's being shown to you? Yes. What do you recognize that to be? That is my body-worn camera from that day. Prior to today, did you have an opportunity to watch what's on People's 19 for identification? Yes. And are you in that video? Yes. Is People's 19 for identification a fair and accurate recording of the body camera that you were wearing on March 25th of 2023? Yes. Is there one exception with regard to the volume? Is there audio on there? No. Okay, so I guess the prosecution just wants to make sure they're not saying it's the exact thing without mentioning that there's audio missing, even though there was actually audio on the body cam recording. So Mr. Perez says, Your Honor, people move People's Exhibit 19 into evidence. The judge has just one other question. I think you said you watched it today. The witness says, yeah, I watched it. I watched it today. The judge says, was there any difference or anything added or subtracted from that body-worn camera except for the audio between today, which is December 8th, and March 25th of 2023? And then Swayne says no. And does the defense have any questions? One brief question. And I will say, if you end up wanting to fast forward through the body cam parts while watching this testimony reading, the camera does shut off right as they go into the hallway. The camera that we see in this exhibit, at least what's been released to the public, which I don't know why they would release an incomplete version of an exhibit. Exhibit 19 seems to stop when Swayne and Lucero step out into the hallway outside of the penthouse. It doesn't capture the arrest. So he's the arresting officer, but we don't have the body cam footage of Swayne placing Jonathan Majors under arrest. So to me, I have questions of like what they're demonstrating as completeness. Because I don't know, personally, if you show me a video of this stuff happening in an apartment, everything's calm, and then you see someone getting taken away in handcuffs, their reaction could be really compelling. It could, be indicative of demeanor, or, if they look like they did anything wrong, or if they look confused because they don't think that they did anything wrong. So I think it's interesting that we don't have any footage of Jonathan Majors being placed under arrest, and they're telling us this is a complete camera footage of the incident they responded to on March 25th. So Zuckerman jumps in with a question. Zuckerman remembers the defense. One brief question. Judge says, sure. Officer Swayne, you stated that you saw yourself in the video. It was my video. But you can't see yourself in the video, correct? Well, I guess no. We have no objection, Your Honor. Without objection, People's 19 for identification is now 19 in evidence. Judge, I ask it to be published to the jury. Sure. This time I'll ask Galloway to start playing it. Okay, so I guess the jury is going to watch this whole part moving forward. Can all members of the jury see it? And Ms. Chaudhry, can you and Mr. Majors see it? Yes. Okay, thank you. We could fast forward to about a minute and a half. So we're going to do that. They're going to start playing at 1:26. And then I'm going to do this. Presumably, we have the timestamps correct that match Exhibit 19 as it was played in court. We'll try to figure that out as we go along. And where are they going to go? They're going to watch about 126 to 142. And remember, there's no audio. So they're just walking into the lobby. We'll just start it here. And they stop it here. Okay, and so they're saying, "Officer, whose hand are we looking at?" "That's my hand." "It's fair to say that you are in the video?" "Yeah." "Thank you." So then they continue playing at 142, and we're going to go just 8 seconds. So they stop there, and they say, "If you could pause right there, who is the person that we're looking at in the video?" "That is Mr. Majors." So then we're going to go from 150 to 217. And then they're talking through this. "So can you explain for the members of the jury where you're walking to right now?" "We're going to the elevator. There's another individual now if we pause it. And we're not currently lined up with that." They're going to stop it at 217. Jonathan Majors is clearly speaking and explaining to them. It looks like Lucero's trying to look at his phone or whatever's in his other hand or is thinking. "So can you explain who we're speaking to right now?" "That's Officer Lucero," referring to this guy over in the middle of the frame. And then they continue playing. They fast forward another 30 seconds, and then they're going to continue playing at 3:47. That's kind of a big jump. So they don't play through all of this. They fast forward through all of this part. Let's watch what they're fast forwarding through. So let's see. They pause around 217. So what we're going to watch here is the jury it's being fast forwarded for the jury. Maybe telling her to go. So they're getting out now. And do you think it's important for the jury to see this part? I kind of do. Because he's the only one that seems like he's moving on a mission, like he cares to get his girlfriend help. And the officers are like, doot-de-doot-de-doo, who's this guy? He has to stop and look back like, let's go. He grabs the blanket. The jury doesn't see that because we're still not where they pause. So this actually might be a little off. Oh no, they continue playing. So they start playing, let's see, 3. Okay, so the timing might be a little bit off because this is continue playing 3:47. We don't know how long it actually plays for when they ask this next question. So, but they do ask, "Where are you at this point, officer?" "The first floor of the apartment." "So where are you at this point, officer?" "This is the first floor of the apartment." "What floor are you going to at this time?" "We're going to the 3rd floor." If we could pause there. "What area of the apartment is this?" So I'm curious, 3:47 for me starts, you know, like they're already on the 3rd floor. So either the exhibit is not right or where I extracted it from, maybe they just don't have an incomplete copy, or maybe they did something to speed something up, or they cut a part out that may have been not right in the beginning. But it doesn't seem that far off because that only took like 10 seconds to get from the first floor to the third floor. But maybe they did see the blanket part, but they surely didn't see that whole elevator to like the walking into the penthouse. They skipped over at least like a minute of the footage. So they're going to restart again. What area of the apartment is this? They're in the bedroom. This is on what floor? The third floor. They're going to continue. They didn't note where they paused, but they say they're going to continue without any note of fast forwarding. And then they're going to pause once they get to the bathroom. Okay, so if we could pause. What part of the screen is the bathroom on? If you could just indicate. So they must be pausing here. The left is what they say. And what, if anything, is on the right hand of the screen? Like a walk-in closet. Okay. Perez says you could press play. And then hold on, I think I'm going to block Jabari, so let me like move this thing up. There we go. Okay, so. And who, if anyone, are you speaking with at this time? And he says, Miss Jabari. So let's wait till they start speaking to her. He might be speaking and we just can't see the action of it in the body cam because she's still laying on the floor at this point. She hasn't sat up yet. So his hands are moving as if he's talking. So we're going to pause and catch up with the questions here. So can you explain to the members of the jury what Miss Jabari's demeanor was like at this time? She was a little like foggy. Her speech was a little slow. And then they continue. They're saying it's 4:36, and let's see if they give us another timestamp. No, they're going to ask a bunch of questions. So they play a little bit. It doesn't look like anyone's been packing. So they're playing a little bit. At this point, what, if any, injuries did you notice on Miss Jabari? I didn't notice any injuries. Okay, where is Miss Jabari at this time? She is lying on her back in, like, the middle of this walk-in closet. And they're going to say if we pause it right here. They're going to ask, what, if anything, we see? Okay, so I think this is right where they're at in the testimony. So he said, the ADA press says, what, if anything, are we looking at on the bottom of the screen in the middle? Those are Miss Jabari's legs. They continue again. What, if anything, did you ask Miss Jabari at this time? If she remembers why she's on the floor, if she went to sleep there. At this point in time, where is the withdrawn? Where is she in relation to the defendant at this point in time? Probably like a foot or two away. Without getting into the and you can see he's still outside the door. Without getting into the substance of anything, was the defendant speaking to you at this point in time? Yes. At this point, can you explain what Miss Jabari's demeanor was like? Oh, he's holding his middle finger right there. So he must be explaining something about maybe noticing her finger. And the reason I got quiet right there is because what's essentially happening in my mind, since the prosecution is playing this continuously. Let's watch that little bit again. While this is happening on the screen, while Jonathan is doing something to point to Jabari, make note of, the right middle finger, they're asking questions to the witness. So either the jury is not all going to be able to take it all in at the same time. Because this is on the screen, but they're also supposed to be paying attention to what the witness is testifying to in the room on the stand right in front of them. Remember, the jury box is it's a small courtroom. The jury is right there. So while this is happening, there's this dialogue taking place. So let's try to mash that up and see what an ordinary person might miss if two things are happening in front of them at once. So let's see. So he is saying that Jonathan Majors is probably like a foot or two away. Without getting into the substance of anything, was the defendant speaking to you at this time? Yes. At this point, can you explain what Ms. Jabari's demeanor was like? I think at this point, she was probably coming a little more to. Maybe still a little foggy at this point. When you say coming to, what do you mean? Can you explain what that means? Her sentences were a little more clear and her voice was getting a little louder. And again, who is that we're looking at right now? And then we're just going to pause it right here. They don't give a pause, but they say that they're sitting her up. So let's see. Did they just sit her up? Because I was reading, so I couldn't even see. Let's rewind it a few seconds. It seems like this is where they're going to go sit her up. So at some point they do say, what are you doing at this point in time? We're sitting her up. Okay. They press play and then they hit pause. And then they ask, what, if any, injuries did you notice on her body at this point in time? She had a bruised middle finger on her right hand. So, like, we just see, and Swain is probably looking at the video more intently than the jury is. Either the jury is probably paying attention to the video or they're paying attention to testimony. They're probably not adequately, as an individual, paying attention to both. But Perez, with the screen, he has his own screen right in front of him. Not Perez, Swayne has his own video screen right in front of him. And on that screen, there's Jonathan Majors going middle finger, middle finger, middle finger. And then they're like, what, if any, injuries did you notice on her body at this point in time? She had a bruised middle finger. So, but 2 seconds ago, let me show you the part of the transcript. 2 seconds ago, they're like, well, what's going on at this point? And he has to speculate. And maybe the defense could have objected here. It might have been overruled. But he's like, I think. So he's guessing. Like, he's not sure. He's making testimony here saying, I think at this point, she was probably coming a little more to. Maybe still a little foggy at this point. But then right after there's Jonathan Majors on the video screen going like this, he's like, oh yeah, in this moment in time, yeah, he's going on. I see an injury now. I didn't see any injuries earlier, but now I see she has something with her middle finger. So I don't know. I don't like the way that this video and the testimony are overlapping each other. I think it's aiding Swayne's testimony where he just speculated about what was going on in the moment. Now he sees Jonathan Majors do something with the finger and he's like, oh yeah, finger injury. But the jury is not really, they probably can't discern the two things at the same time. That's a little annoying. Let me see if you guys are catching on to this. Okay, we've got a lot of comments here, so let's see. I really want the audio to the police tapes, and I can't wait until they are. I don't know if they ever will be. I sure hope that they are, because I want the same thing. And yeah, transparency with an exclamation, a laugh face, and a question mark. And Rosemary Carter, he's not even a foot away. He's standing at her head. Right, because you got to remember, she's splayed out. Like, well, not really splayed out, because I think she's kind of laying, like, pinned straight. But she's long. She said she was, like, 5 foot something, right? Like, 5'6", something like that. So, she's not a child. That closet's not that long. It's a nice walk-in closet, but it's not, like, a whole room. She's laying there stiff like a log. And Zach, let's talk about it, because Zach here reminds us all, people forget Jonathan Majors was the first to report her injuries as well. He also mentioned the ear on the 911 call. So, and then Rosemary says, I also want to point out that she has not even packed a shoelace. She was just going to keep wearing them leather bell-bottom pants and thick, chunky heels for the rest of her life, chasing this man down. She didn't need to pack anything. So I don't think that they will. I do think that if we are able to see some appeal documents, we will get possibly a peek at some of the statements that are made audibly in the audio recordings of this footage. And that's if we're able to see the appeal documents, and that's if we're able to if they raise that type of point on the appeal as an argument. But with an appeal, it's probably not likely that the appellate counsel, which I think is Chaudhry's law firm, I don't think they brought on anyone additional to help with the appeal. But we'll see. Once it's filed, you'll see all the signatories. I don't think that they're going to pull quotes if they want to make an appellate argument about things that are said on this audio camera that were withheld, lack of evidence, lack of completeness of the evidence. If they want to make an argument that, hey, this quote is in this body cam audio and the jury was not allowed to see this, and in fact, we actually had testimony saying the opposite, and the defendant was not given the right to impugn the witness as part of their own fair trial, right? If they're going to pull a quote from that body cam audio, it's probably going to be a true and accurate quote. It would be malpractice for an attorney to quote something that isn't really a quote in what they're quoting in, any type of legal argument to a court. So if we do get the appeal argument paperwork, we'll go through it. We'll see if they raise this issue as an argument on appeal, and if they give us any quotes from the body cam audio that we weren't able to hear because the judge said, oh, you can't play this. So yeah, at this point, she's embarrassed. For sure, I agree. J-Rock, so not exactly. We're really just in the beginning of Officer Swayne's testimony. They just got upstairs. They just sat Jabari up in the body cam footage. So they're playing the body cam footage in pieces in court, and we're pausing to try to imitate how it's being, stop and go played in the courtroom. And Ramar, can you give me a phonetic pronunciation? Is it Ramar or is it Raymar? Because I'm thinking Shamar, but Ramar. But I don't know. It could sound nice a lot of ways. But you say that if this trial isn't appealable, I don't know what is. And I agree. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest grounds is the sufficiency of the evidence. Because if the question is the cause of the injury, the mechanism of the injury, that's really what the point of this case, what the jury was asked to decide, was the mechanism of injury. And if there isn't evidence besides her own story and the driver, we don't have video footage of the car, and there's also this body cam footage where apparently Priya Chaudhry tried to make the point that she told the police, hey, my injury actually happened in the second part of the car, after I'd met the strangers. The evidence presented in court, there could be a sufficiency problem. That would, to me, be what I would think is the biggest appellate issue, the most compelling. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try all the other. As far as appeals, throw the kitchen sink, But I would love to see the appeal paperwork and see the argument. If you guys haven't checked out Priya Chaudhry's motion to dismiss, very bulleted, they cite the right cases. They did all the math on the days leading up to trial. They definitely went over the 91 days of a speedy trial that Jonathan Majors was entitled to. The judge disagreed. He did his own math and said, nope, no issue here, moving forward. But I thought it was a really solid motion to dismiss. There was a 115-page response to the motion to dismiss by the prosecution, so more than 4 times the length of the initial motion to dismiss, but they didn't release that. We don't get to see what the prosecution responded with. So if he gets a new judge on appeal, is it possible for the new judge to let in additional evidence? Do you mean if the appeal is accepted and they say, all right, we're going to send this back to the trial court for, it's going to be retried, they could pursue it totally differently. Even the defense could come in or the prosecution could come in and say, we're going to go with a different theory of argument in this case. So, for example, maybe the prosecution might decide, hey, we don't really want to focus on the finger injury too much. We want to focus on the shoving and pushing in the car. We're not going to try to confuse the jury with the idea of the finger injury because maybe it isn't clear where that actually occurred. But he's clearly pushing her and there's video of that, and we're just going to hammer home that you don't have the right to push someone into a car. If you say you're trying to get rid of them, you shouldn't be pushing them into the car. The defense might do the same. The defense might say, we just want to focus in on why that push was justified. It was self-defense. He was trying to get away from someone and also protect her safety at the same time. He had no other choice. At the same time, they could avoid that all, and in a retrial, the defense could say, hey, if we think that we can get this, more evidence about her arrest in, more evidence about what happened in car number 2, we're going to focus on car number 2 and say, no, the prosecution wants you to think that Jonathan Majors caused this over some fight over the phone. Maybe Jonathan Majors will even testify. He never let that phone go. He had it in his hand and had to get it back from her, but not because he ever let it go, but because she was grabbing it while he was holding it. And in that motion, she struck at him. That's when she scratched. Whatever they want to argue, they could decide, hey, we're going to focus in on car part 2 because maybe this judge, this ruling will let us get some point in, whether it's audio from the body cam footage or it's better testimony from Detective Mejia that was objected to and sustained and stricken. We could have a better theory of the case that Jabari was the one that assaulted Jonathan Majors, and Jonathan Majors was acting in self-defense, knowing for sure that we can get that information in when we couldn't the last time. So there could be so many different ways a second trial could go. You can't really predict it, and I'm sure the attorneys, they have to call audibles when the judge makes new or different rulings than they expect to. So what they would say that they might do today might have to change. And then Rosemary, I hope so. I hope that the next judge will allow the audio. And I mean, I think it's really important. It's insane to me that on one hand, New York City, district attorneys, prosecution, it's a political office for the DA. You're running all these things on, fighting racial bias, fighting hate crimes. And part of the racial bias conversation is police brutality. There's a huge, huge push that I don't know anyone running for a New York City prosecutorial seat, like whether it's Alvin Bragg or whoever wants to run next, I don't think any single one of them would get up there and be like, hey, we should suddenly just not have transparency, turn off the body cams. We don't want to know what's happening during an arrest. So it's very weird to me that with how popular and rightfully so, we should have body cams. Body cams should be functional. Body cams should be accessible. We should be able to see what the officers are doing when they make an arrest. Yet in this case, which the prosecution tried to hold up as some, big symbolic win, they had to suppress the audio. They wouldn't let the audio come in. There isn't body cam of the actual arrest part. There's just body cam of them talking in a closet, essentially. Like, where is the transparency? And I would love for Alvin Bragg to be put on the spot. He doesn't seem to want to talk to anybody, but I wish if he's ever in a position, someone would ask him, like, hey, how do you feel about police body cam, some footage coming in and not actually showing the full arrest, but no audio coming in? How important do you think audio is? Put him on the spot. Because if they want to make this case a symbolic win for the mission of, Manhattan as far as criminal justice, let's talk about the flip side of it. But yeah, she just passed out. Why is she lying so intense? I mean, maybe I'm not a medical expert. I don't really know how people pass out, but all I know is that from what we know, she was just texting someone at 11:07 and she heard Jonathan Majors come home and she lied in her testimony saying, oh, I passed out. Oh, oops. No, I laid down and took a nap willfully. She doesn't even know how she ended up falling asleep. She switched her story on that. But she either heard him or didn't hear him come home. But she texted her friend Holly that she heard him come home and that he tripped over a suitcase at 11:07. And Holly got played because Holly bought all that bullshit, right? Like, if you got to watch Holly Blakey's testimony, to me, I feel like she went in there wanting to convince herself more than anybody else of the story she was sold. But yeah, if she just passed out, why is she lying there so tense? Where was that phone she was using to text Holly? Miss Lady says, if I were a lawyer, I would request proof of Grace Jabari ever having a broken rib. For all we know, she could have lied about that too. So Ramar. Like how you would say Renee, but add Mar at the end. Okay, so I bet there's people out there that say Renee really weird though. like Renee. I don't know. But it's Ramar. I got you. And then Ernest says to that guy McFly, she is trying too hard. It's probably hard to get off the first phone, hide the second phone, and play possum at the same time. That's right. And then Daisy points out, Jonathan Majors pointed to her finger. He noticed the finger. So even he is wondering how she did that. And he still called the police. If he was scared, if he thought that he did it, not saying, you might be in a situation, you make a mistake and you still try to do the right thing to get someone medical help, right? That's still a possibility. But if you're some big bad person that's always trying to hide your abusive ways, why would you be like, oh, you have an injury? I'm going to call 911. Like, you wouldn't do that. It just doesn't add up with the theory of the case that not only was the prosecution presenting, but now Grace Jabari is adopting, because Grace Jabari is co-opting the experience of a real victim by showing her praise for the Sanctuary for Families of New York nonprofit. Like, she's adopting that whole lifestyle now. Like, she's going to become a mini pat on the back activist to kind of Me Too herself into a new social clique aesthetic. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I hope the next person she tries to play fool for doesn't fall for it. Rosemary says, I wonder if Alvin Bragg will be so transparent when it comes to the lawsuit he has against him for his charges of SA. Oh, so he has a suit against him? Okay, so I've been like so... Was it sexual assault or sexual harassment? Big difference. Neither are good, but... Does he have a case against him? I'll have to, like, visit into that. I haven't heard that. Or do you say for his charges of SA? Or do you mean, like, how he's charged against other people? I'm gonna have to Google that, because I haven't heard anything about him. And honestly, I'll be fair, guys, right? If a sexual, like, if any claim comes out against anybody, I still always want to look at it before I'm, you know, just, like, completely like, ooh, yep, or nope. Like, even with the Diddy stuff where I was like, kind of adds up on a gut instinct. I was like, let me still, like, read through this and go through it. And if you look at my reading, I don't really love how the attorneys that wrote the petition for Cassie's sake, I think they did a great job laying out the serious elements of everything. But in the beginning, they're like, oh, she was young and she did ecstasy with him, and, you know, that was like grooming, and she was young and had no choice or agency. I was like, don't try to make that argument. I don't think that that's really appropriate. She was out on a date with him, wanted to have fun that night, and decided to pop a pill. It is what it is. It doesn't make her further claims any less credible. But I felt like I could go through that petition and say, hey, you know, I think this is adding up that Diddy probably did some not great things to Cassie. But I'm going to criticize the petition, the way it's written, for adding fluff where there doesn't need to be fluff. That was what I came through reading that stuff. No way. Let's talk about that. Can you email me something about that? If I do a quick Google, I'm not seeing anything except a flood of stuff about the E. Jean Carroll, because there's some of that same keywording, because it's Manhattan and it's sexual assault. But if you want to just email me, kat@KattWagner.com, we can do a stream. We can talk about anything, like really anything Alvin Bragg we can talk about. And then, so J-Rock says, unless you're having a seizure when somebody passes out, the body goes limp. And then that's the other thing. If she did have a seizure, there's other questions too, right? So if she just passes out, she should have been limp. But if she had a seizure, there's other questions as to what was going on? What was your body chemistry at that point, like neurologically, that you had a seizure, if there's nothing saying anywhere that you have a history of seizures, or that you have like epilepsy or something? What's the explanation for you to have a seizure in this exact moment? So either way, the cookie crumbles, there's a question there, right? And then Daisy says, if you notice, she carefully placed the hand with the injured finger draped across her stomach as she laid out there. She wanted it on full display. Yep. So I think we actually see that more in Hanson's body cam as well. So we'll go through that. I actually do hope, I don't know, did anyone release Lucero's body cam footage? I'll have to double check. It might actually be out already. And we can grab it and look at that too. But I do have Hanson's right now. But if we don't have Lucero's already, that'll probably be part of the digital file that the DA sends over finally. I guarantee you, give it like 2-3 weeks for them to send an email with this information. They've been like crawling like snails to respond to my FOIL request. And then let's see. So that guy McFly says, so Grace returned to her abuser, then changed her mind because the police conveniently arrived to her apartment first thing in the morning. No, remember she changed her mind at 7:58 after she tried to text Jonathan Majors 3 last times. She changed her mind when she texted Holly 2 seconds after that. So, and then Holly is like, no, she finally changed her mind at like 11 in the morning. She finally decided she was going to pack. And then 11 in the morning, she also decides to take a nap on the warm bathroom floor while the suitcase is 2 stories down, and she locked her door to pack in the safety of her bedroom. Personally, I do see a pillar candle that looks like it's been lit and partially melted sitting next to that suitcase, a white pillar candle. Priya Chaudhry had said in her initial letter to the court in April of 2023, there was a sentimental photograph conspicuously placed with a lit candle and a suitcase when Jonathan Majors walked into that apartment building. So, if there really was a lit candle when Jonathan Majors got there, she went all the way back up 2 stories to the 3rd floor, locked the bedroom door, went from the bedroom around the bed into the bathroom and then into the walk-in closet, and then just with a lit candle downstairs. Like, that seems reckless to anyone else that lives in that building. Just saying. All to stage a scene. Okay, so we are back. Where are we? I don't remember if they're about to pause. This is where Swayne just says, oh, she had a bruised middle finger on her right hand. And then Perez says, continue the video. So let's get to that. Can you explain Miss Jabari's demeanor at this point in time? A little overwhelmed, she's getting upset, not really knowing what's going on at this point. Did she explain why she believes she didn't understand what was going on? Yeah. What was that? She said she was sleeping. She took a sleeping tablet the night before. What are you and Officer Lucero doing at this point in time? We're just talking to her, seeing if she knows why she's on the floor, what happened to her finger. And what, if anything, did you ask in relation to that? Just if she knows why her finger is bruised and in the condition it's in. But we had through her testimony, because remember, they played the audio for her, and Chaudhry sat there and was like, line by line. And that's you saying, what happened to my finger? Right? So Swayne is like interpolating that, but it's really Jabari, according to her testimony while she was listening to the audio, saying, yeah, I say, what happened to my finger? Did he do that? What did he do to me? But now in Swayne's testimony, his recollection is, which doesn't match the audio that Jabari testified to, we're just talking to her, seeing if she knows why she's on the floor, what happened to her finger, and asked her if she knows why her finger is bruised and in the condition it's in. So, and I guess I should be showing you that up on the screen here. But he says here that he asked if she knows why her finger is bruised and in the condition that it's in. So he didn't notice any injuries on her. Now he's watching this video. He sees Jonathan in the video pointing to the finger. He's like, oh yeah, I noticed she had something wrong with her finger. And then he hasn't mentioned anything about the ear or anything else. He says, yeah, and we ask her, hey, what's up with your finger? Doesn't match Jabari's testimony. And then, was Miss Jabari forthcoming with the information when you were asking her questions? No. Did she tell you why she wasn't forthcoming? Well, and Zuckerman objects. The judge actually asked for grounds for the objection. That's the first time I've seen him ask for what the objection is for, I think. So Zuckerman says, I don't think there's basis to ask that, Judge. The judge says, well, there is a basis. Is there an objection why it's not relevant? Zuckerman says, I'm not sure that it goes to anything about what the officer did next. All right, let's rephrase that question. So Perez says, sure. Officer, what are you doing at this point in time that we're looking at on the body-worn camera? We could play a little bit to get some motion. So let's see, we're probably way off. So they're saying that they're starting at 8, so we're about a minute behind. So let's catch up. Okay, so they're asking him questions during this. So can you explain Mr. Jabari's physical conditions at this point? I mean, she's up, she's breathing. What are you doing at this point in time? All right, at this point, I wanted to make sure he was in a different room. And why did you want to make sure he was in a different room? Zuckerman objects, overruled. Based on what she was saying, we wanted to interview her a little more about what had happened the night before. What, if anything, did she say that made you go to the other room? She whispered saying that, like, she doesn't want him right outside the room, something like that. When she said that, can you explain what her demeanor was? She seemed scared. I think she might have cried at this point. Now you came back and you're with Officer Lucero? Yes. What, if anything, are you doing at this point in time? We're asking her more about what took place. Sorry, this is the wrong. Did I just block her face? Oh yeah, she's boohoo crying right now. So I'm going to slow this down because even though they're playing this continuously, we're not going to do that. We're going to watch some detail and we're going to line it up. But just keep in mind that they're playing this and asking him the questions while this is speeding through. So what, if anything, are you doing at this point in time? We're asking her more about what took place the night before. What, if anything, did she say in that regard? She said they were in the back of the car. I believe she started off by saying it was her fault. And then she got into her saying that she tried looking or taking the phone from Mr. Majors. That's interesting. Looking or taking. Oops. Because he had a text message on it. And at which point he grabbed her and hit her in the head or pushed her head. So that's it. So that's what he remembers. Oh, she tried to take the phone and he pushed her in the head. That's what he's remembering. If we could pause here. Can you explain for the members of the jury what the condition of her hand looks like? Her right hand, excuse me. So they could be paused at any point here. We don't have a timestamp. If we could go back about 10 seconds, but we don't know the timestamp. But we do see her hand moving around. It is the hand with the ring that is her right hand. I personally, it looks like a little red on the knuckle, personally. You see how it just looks like a little bit thicker. The two knuckles of that finger compared to the fingers right alongside of it. So, and then I don't know if they keep playing it, but let's just look at the testimony here. Can you explain for the members of the jury what the condition of her hand looks like? Her right hand, excuse me. I mean, it's bruised, I thought. Specifically, where is the bruise? Right in the middle of her right middle finger. Without getting into the substance, what's the topic of the conversation here at this point in time, if you recall? I don't recall. What is she? Oh, because there's no indicator of what could be going on, so you don't have something to make sense and math around really quick and come up with a story about what's going on. Because you also didn't recall what was going on with any injuries until you see the video of Jonathan Majors tapping the finger. So what is she pointing at right here? So we could go back about 10 seconds. What is she doing with her right hand? She has pain to the side of her head. Okay, so let's see what he's talking about there. He's holding his fists, sort of. Great, nice arm. She looks like she's saying, I don't know. Let's watch that again. Oh my god, the arm. Watch her mouth and her head shake. Okay, so I wonder if she's gonna. Maybe we're behind. I wonder if they missed part of the video. Like if they fast forwarded without specifying. Because they start talking about her pointing to her head. Maybe I missed it. You know, let's leave it where we're at. Let's jump to the testimony. And then right now we are on the end of page 18 of these transcripts. Do we see a timestamp? We see press play. They mentioned Sergeant Hanson, so they see him at some point. Okay. So they haven't gotten to anything about the ear in the video. So I'm not exactly sure if we're on track with what they're playing or if they've skipped anything, because they stopped specifying where they're stopping and pausing at. They were giving us timestamps to start, and now they're not. So right here, what is she doing with her right hand? She has pain to the side of her head. What led you to that conclusion without getting into the substance of what she said? I mean, she was almost crying when she was saying this. Like, she was really in pain. What was she doing with her hand at this point? Zuckerman says, Your Honor, may we approach? Sure. Yeah, because he's just like randomly speculating, in my opinion. I'm not seeing this going on in the video, and it still appears to the jury. It's fine if you want to ask him a question and he gives an answer, right? But if you're asking him about what's going on in the video and he's testifying about something that's not apparent in the video, that's an issue. So Zuckerman's like, Your Honor, may we approach? The judge is like, sure. And we don't know how long the sidebar is. In this portion of the video, what, if anything, is Miss Jabari doing with her right hand? She's feeling the side of her head. And if we could continue at this point, is she describing to you the source of her injury? She was, without just telling us yes or no, was she describing the source of her injury? Just pain. So she's not describing the source. Okay. Did you ask Miss Jabari what happened to it? Yes. And how many times in total did you have to ask her that question throughout your entire interaction with her? Throughout the whole... Right. Maybe about 5 and 10 times. Maybe between 5 and 10 times. Why is that? She was a little fuzzy in recollecting what happened. What else? We were trying to figure it out, like exactly what had happened. So Perez says you can press play. Let's see. Whatever they're playing, we'll have to catch up with and get it lined up, and we know exactly how to line it up. They may be ahead of what I played. We might be right on track. I'm not sure. Now, at this point in time, you can stop right there. What's your assessment of the overall situation here in your capacity as a domestic violence prevention officer? They are loving that that's his specialty because they can say it over and over. Based on what we had so far, I knew that, bare minimum, there would be a domestic incident report that would have to be taken. Why is that? Based on the facts I was getting from both parties, there was a domestic incident that occurred. Okay, who is that we're looking at right now if we pause the video? Okay, so let's get to Sergeant Hanson. Unless that's Sergeant Hanson standing there. Okay, that's her apparently talking about her head. Grabbing the phone. She definitely mouths phone here. Let's do that again. Read her lips here, guys. She's going to touch her head briefly and say pain. The phone. All these details she can't remember, but she can remember that text message, the other woman. Let's look at the comments. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Daisy says, scheming! And then, so... Why are the police lifting Grace Jabari up anyway? Why didn't they let emergency medical pick her up? I don't think the cops bought it for real. They picked her up like yeah, that's actually a really good point. Like, if it looks like someone may have collapsed and had a seizure, we didn't get any testimony that, Officer Swayne is more of a village person than just a police domestic violence person, right? He doesn't have we don't have any testimony that he's, volunteer ambulance, volunteer firefighter that has other type of training in this regard. So why is he just picking up this person? Because even as common sense, I've heard that you're not supposed to go up and touch someone that may have just had a seizure and hit their head or something like that. supposed to give him space or whatever. So how is Swain saying this when the jury doesn't hear audio? Is he repeating back his audio or just saying, no, so Swain is just hearing this from his recollection. The only audio was Grace Jabari hearing it while she was answering. And only her. So again, if we line like some of the stuff up that Swain is testifying to, plus we're able to see the body cam footage, and then we line it up with the things that Grace Jabari has asked line by line. Oh, and you're saying, I don't know. And is that you saying you don't know? Like, I'm so confused right now. Yes, I'm saying I'm so confused right now. These line by lines don't add up with the way that Swain is recalling it. And to me, it's a little bit misleading because if a police officer is saying that's happening in this video, the jury is like, just psychologically, oh, there's video right in front of me, and a police officer, an expert in domestic violence, is telling me what's happening here. It creates trust that isn't really there when it's just speculation. And I guarantee you that's why Zuckerman just went up to the bench, and as soon as they got back, Perez had to be like, oh, you see her actually touching her head here, right? That's this moment that I'm referring to. And now we saw it. We just watched it in this clip. She's not really, she's just like, oh, my face. And then I grabbed the phone. She mouths the word phone while she's making a grabbing motion. So, yeah. And then, remember in the beginning when Chaudhry said the cops were discussing how much money the house costs and if JM could afford it? I wonder if that's why they took out the audio. There could be any number of excuses that they took out this audio, but at the end of the day, this body cam isn't showing us the arrest. So it's not even a complete video, whether it has audio or not. Like, I don't know. Why is there a scale in the closet? It might make more sense because the bathroom kind of looked like a narrow walkway, so maybe just there wasn't a convenient place for it to sit in the bathroom. Yeah, she just touched her ear. She's trying to sell this. And not for nothing, but she was also just like doing other things, right? Like she was also just wiping tears. It's not even clear without audio of her saying, I'm touching the side of my face. This is where I have pain. It's not clear that she's touching her face to indicate pain because she just did other motions to wipe her tears and touch her face with her hand. So Rosemary says that when she saw the police, she knew their relationship was over and she went into overtime coming up with the story. And yeah, like, we can go through that. If you find that lawsuit, we can totally go through it. It looks like she's trying to describe what happened in the car, but she's trying to sell the lie. Yeah, and this is like the only moment where we see her, like, before she's like, oh, and she's looking down, she's confused, but now we actually see her animating what happened, recalling what happened. And what are the motions? She's not going like this. She's not going like this. She's not going like this. She's going how? She's going... And I feel like we need to hear the audio so that we could see if his recollection lines up with what is being said. Yeah, because, how much do you think someone really remembers this far down the line when they respond to 911 calls all day? Her furrowed brow, Daisy says her furrowed brow as she's trying to create this lie, the touching exactly to her ear and crying upon waking up from being passed out lies. The cops are showing their implicit bias. And it really bothers me now. I watched this and I didn't pay attention to it, but like having Swain kind of like sitting here explaining what's going on in the body cam footage, but Jonathan Majors is the one that speeds down like this is actually important down that hallway when the elevator gets to their floor where the penthouse is on. And he has to look back and be like, come on, bro, like hurry your ass up. Like, why would he be so eager to be like, let me show you the girlfriend I just beat on? Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. The demeanor of the officers shows like they're not paying attention. They're paying attention to the penthouse, the building that they're going up in this elevator with a black man, wondering who he is. And man, they might have looked at that ripped coat pocket and thought like, bum, why is he in this penthouse? He's got a ripped jacket. Rather than being able to comprehend that the chick on the floor crying because this black man's trying to break up with her is the one who, when she's doing this motion like this, is attacking him and ripping his stuff up, ripping his face, ripping his property. Like, it's... When I started this, I was like, okay, transcripts, but wait a minute, we have the body cam. Let's try to like line this up. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a little bit of a technical struggle for me. It's going to be a struggle stream. But this is why it's so good to have you guys all in here. It's so good to be able to, even though we don't have the audio, we have the testimony. We have Grace Jabari's testimony we've already looked at, where she's given us some testimony about the lines that were said. The audio, she spoke out loud, that we can't hear that audio, while we're able to see the bullshit from the officer's testimony. So something doesn't add up, you know? And Daisy says, if you look at Jonathan Majors interacting with the police, you can tell he does not know he will be arrested. I'm sure he was shocked upon being arrested. Exactly. Like, and we can't see that part. I think that part would be so important to see. It's like, you know, the show Cops is big for a reason. Like, people want to see how perps react when they get caught for the bad thing that they did. But in this situation, I fully believe he didn't do anything wrong, and we don't see him getting caught for doing something wrong. Why wouldn't that be... Because they have the officer testifying. It's not like they need Grace Jabari. Grace Jabari can't lay foundation to him getting arrested if she wasn't standing there watching it, right? But they have the officer here, the arresting officer. So there's no reason that they couldn't have let that part of the body cam video come in. And I doubt, we don't have any reports that Jonathan Majors went buck wild to resist arrest. We don't have any of that story, and for the stories to have been as bombastic when they came out with the strangulation imagery, if there was even any resistance, that would have been headlines all over, and probably would still be headlines. It would have been all over this testimony in the trial. It would have been part of the opening and closing arguments from the prosecution. I have no reason to believe that he did anything to, you know, violently or angrily resist arrest, which makes me conclude he must have just looked confused, genuinely confused, and we don't get to see that, and that's weird. Yeah. So Ada, maybe what she says in the video contradicts what she said in court, which is why they took the audio off. I mean, I think whatever said in that audio would have killed the prosecution's case. That's all. And I'm going to hammer back to the sort of towards the ending of Chaudhry's direct cross-examination of Grace Jabari, where she asked that girl almost a dozen times, double-digit times, and you're telling the officer right now, you're telling the officer your hand got hurt. You had a second fight, and that's when your hand got hurt. No, I don't hear myself saying that. Can we play? Are you not saying right here? Are you not telling the officer right here that your finger got hurt in the second part of the car? Over and over and over. And she's like, no. But we know Grace Jabari wouldn't lay foundation about the injury photos. She knew not to say, she was like, oh, I'm not sure that those are his clothes. She knew not to let those 3 pieces of the scratch on his face and the arm and the bloody pillow from the hotel. She knew how to not lay foundation. She knew. She was pretty forthcoming about, yeah, I am saying I don't know in the audio. But as soon as it came up time to demonstrate where the finger happened, which would have suggested she was the one that assaulted somebody. She broke her finger. She hurt her finger while ripping his coat. She will not say that that's what she's saying at that part of the body cam audio, and Priya asks it over and over. And we don't get that audio. Why? Because I think it would have killed the prosecution's case here, and it would have ruined the deal. It would have looked really bad that they made a deal with this girl. They promised her, quote, no legal repercussions whatsoever, according to Ross Kramer, her pro bono attorney appointed by the Sanctuary for Families of New York. It would have made that deal given by ADA Erin Tierney for cooperation for her testimony in this case. After it was found out that she had an iCard out, Grace Jabari texted Kelly Galloway personally and said, oh my God, there's an iCard out. I just read this news report that they're going to arrest me. She texts Galloway personally. And Galloway's like, oh my God, you got to take that. I can't talk to you about this. You got to have someone else talk to me. And then all of a sudden she gets a deal from the DA's office, promising no legal repercussions whatsoever because she's cooperating. She's going to cooperate. She's going to come fly here. She's going to appear for arrest in the 10th precinct. And she's going to be able to show up and testify in this trial. And she's going to face no legal repercussions whatsoever, with no investigation into the probable cause that the NYPD found. There's a lot of reasons they don't want this audio coming in. I can't pick one, but I'm sure of the possibilities, at least one of them is true and valid. So Ms. Lady says he told her that he cheated. He said in the Good Morning, the GMA interview, that he interviewed her, or he showed her the phone. Right. So, you know, kind of like, he says something in the video like, and I was holding my phone like this, and she tries to grab the phone, but she never gets the phone. So that's what he says in this GMA interview. She says to Chloe and the guys that he cheated. She says it like she's sure it happened. Yeah, and that's like all the certainty the whole night is, there's this other woman and I don't know who she is, but I want to know who she is. How is this testimony valid? It's speculation. What the fuck? Yeah, and I think that's why they went up to the bench and they came right back with that question. Like, where do you see her? You see her touching her face in this clip of the video, right? Yes. So they're trying to clean that up, but it's a lot of speculation. And then only answers when something happens in the video. So if you notice, we don't really have any questions in his testimony about the actual demeanor. They go right to the video, and they showed him this video beforehand. They don't really do any questioning without this aid in front of him. His recollection has to be refreshed from the very beginning of his testimony, essentially. They knew in advance, preemptively. Refresh this man's memory the whole time. And then, hey, Blue, guys, shout out to Blue. Blue's channel is great. He guests on a lot of other shows too, so anytime I see him pop up, I'm always on Replay Crew for, he gets on like Dre's channel sometimes. I don't really see you that much on Chill streams, but I think you've been there a couple times too. But let me see. I'm going to pull up your channel. I always forget your actual handle on YouTube. It's just Blue's House, right? I think it's just Blue's House. And you guys go follow Blue. And they could have, Miss Lady says, they could have also seen the torn coat of a fight, but more like she was fighting him off. Yep. And I think, like, that's the thing, right? You see a black man in a ripped coat, and he's like, she ripped my coat. But you're in your head, you're like, what's this man with a ripped coat doing in a penthouse? You already had your own conclusion about it. So you're not listening when he's telling you and trying to show you, like, here's the picture of my bloody face and arm that I took last night at 2:03 in the morning. Yeah. And, like, I swear, I was like, let me get these transcripts to make sure I'm not crazy. Like, let's look at this and make sure, you know, we're not just making up a story. But the more you line it up, the more it doesn't add up how Jonathan Majors is faced to dealing with what he has to deal with because of all of this. From the very beginning, he was accused of like 8 charges, strangling somebody to the point where she just dropped and passed out because he was strangling her. People still have that image in their head. All the way down to this stupid harassment violation and a 3rd-degree reckless assault charge. Nobody cares that he got acquitted. Nobody cares that the other charges were dropped right as trial was about to start. Nobody cares that the language of the harassment charge is something that probably traps a lot of people up in the system who don't have the resources or morale. You know, there's all this talk about Jonathan Majors having mental health issues, but yet he has the conviction to sit here and kind of persevere through 9 months just to get to the December trial. And then now he has to persevere before sentencing through an appeal. If his appeal goes forward, it'll be like 3 months before there's even the first hearing date for an initial argument. You know what I'm saying? Like, people talking about his mental health, but what he's doing is something that could adjudicate something that impacts dozens, if not hundreds of other people in this district every year. This stupid harassment charge and the way it's worded. And, like, seeing this case, my heart hurts for him, but it's also like, damn. This is something that so many other people probably take plea deals for. We just saw Kevin Porter Jr. do it. Like, probably because he saw that Jonathan Majors took it to trial and got stuck with the bullshit charges anyway. So why waste the money on the defense to go through a trial and extend it out many more months? And he has an MBA career, right? So he probably on the back end knows there's going to be an offer on the table for him if he can free up his schedule and move forward sooner rather than later. But this whole case is something that the regular average Joe Schmo that doesn't have a team of attorneys advocating for them has to deal with. This is the type of thing that can come up when someone wants to get custody of the kids, right? They can make this accusation, oh, we got in a fight and he abused me. And it's all just to get not just custody, but child support. There's that financial incentive. And the language of the charge is, you know, if you follow someone, if you annoy someone, like anything could technically apply. And it can trap you up. And it's just a lot to think about. And then Ernest says, Wonder Woman 780, yeah, Jonathan Majors got a bad deal. The police really did a number on him. And that's, you know, so that guy McFly says, maybe on audio you hear the officer solicit a charge. So remember, we do have that letter from Priya Chaudhry where she does mention motioning the strangulation. She doesn't, I don't think she makes a mention of any verbal, explicit statement that, oh, he choked you, didn't he? So we don't really see that written in that April letter. Maybe that's something we can revisit. I did an old video before I knew how to use like StreamYard or anything, breaking down that whole April 18th letter. It might be really good. Maybe we'll do like a watch stream. We can get some people up here. It was a pretty short letter. We can read through it again and just like read it with all that we know now. Because those things in that letter, except for the black lane driver vehicle, the security camera, at that point in time, Priya's like, there's video, because there was a camera in the car. We're going to have this video of the inside of the car. That's like the only thing in Priya's like timeline of evidence and events from the very beginning that was ever incorrect. And it wasn't a lie. It was something that she thought was going to be obtained because there is a camera, a physical camera in that vehicle. But there just was no actual recording made. Everything else was truthful in that letter. So I would love to like look at that, look at some of the details she asserts in the motion to dismiss, and line it up with this other testimony that tries to reframe it. Because it really seems to me like the prosecution looked at this motion to dismiss, got with the witnesses, and maybe the witnesses even saw it themselves because it was in the news media. They could have seen it on YouTube, and they said, oh, they're going to really hammer in on me, Holly Blakey, saying she got really scrappy with Jonathan Majors and her telling me she didn't know what happened with her finger. So I'm going to have to like say like, well, she didn't text me that, but she said it on the phone. And then Ben Toddy, I'm going to have to like say she was really broken because in the stuff that they've written about me, they point out that I told them, yeah, I was in the psych ward with her and I told her to get out of the apartment. Like, I don't know. I feel like they really tried to find a way to patch up all the holes in their case. And the witnesses seem to be on board with that the best they could. At least Holly and Ben. I'm not going to say they were malicious about it, but it seems like, you know, people are fooled and they kind of like try to sink they're in the quicksand already. They've been fooled and they can't get out of that quicksand either because they haven't realized they've been fooled or they don't want to recognize that they've been fooled. So the quicksand, they're just still stuck in there. I think that that's probably where Grace Jabari, Holly Blakey's support team was on that Friday where she testified. I think Ben Toddy, the same thing. They're friends, they're work colleagues, they make money when they work together. They don't want to believe that this girl lied to them and played their face. But I think in this audio, I think Officer Swayne just doesn't remember details. I don't think he was paying attention in the moment. He could have said something in this video. He really might not remember saying it. But it's the prosecution that didn't want it to come in, whatever it is. It's not like Swain or the NYPD sat there and said, hey, you know, I think I said something weird in that video. Don't let it come in. Because that happens all the time, right? It's the prosecution that made the argument for this audio to not come in. But I'm going on a tangent here. It shouldn't, I don't think it's, I guess it could be because some cases are, but I feel like the judge can also ask that they can like recuse themselves from a retrial. And there's a possibility that Judge Gaffey will not want to deal with it again. So there's no guarantee that it will or won't be the same judge. Especially if if the appeals court affirms an appellate argument that, like, the judge made an error, like an irreversible error or whatever, and like his discretion to let something come in or not. I feel like at that point the defense could request a different judge and very likely be able to get a different judge. If the appellate argument is affirmed and it's not relating to something the judge did, they might have to make an argument requesting, hey, we want to put this case in front of a different judge this time. And it may be denied. There may not be reason to let another judge do it. But at the same time, the judge could be like, I don't want to deal with a round 2 of this. I'll recuse myself. I'll ask to recuse myself. Someone else can handle it. Because if you think about it, I think the first judge, Jim, was just an arraignment judge. But there was also Rachel Pauley, who was a trial judge. So she oversaw some of the hearings here, but she could have seen the trial through to fruition. So there's another judge available to do it. Pragmatically, it's possible. It wouldn't be too inconvenient to the court. I would ask for a different judge. And I think Rachel Pauley actually admonished the prosecution in one of the earlier hearings, too. So. And then Grace Jabari, Daisy says Grace Jabari has selective memory and lies on Jonathan Majors, but can remember that on March 25th, 2023, the forecast was cloudy and it was waning gibbous moon that night. Remember the morning before was beautiful. A beautiful, intimate brunch morning where she was so intimate with Jonathan Majors, she left all of her buttons undone when she walked out after they did whatever they did. And then got in that elevator. And then let me jump back over to that. I'm sorry I'm missing you guys some of your comments, but I just want to make sure we are going through this transcript. Let's see. Okay, so we just got done with them reiterating the domestic incident verbiage. So based on what we had so far, I knew that bare minimum there would be a domestic incident report that would have to be taken. And then they're going to... We got to get up to Sergeant Hanson. So that's what we're doing. We're getting up to Sergeant Hanson, and we were pointing out that she's mouthing the word phone and making a reaching motion with her arm. It's so annoying that she has like a crooked finger on her right ring finger. A ring, yeah, right? Because there's a gem on that ring, and it keeps sitting crooked. So it's not really sized for her right ring finger, but it's like she's just wearing it on her right ring finger for what? This dude's arm. I wonder if there's a phone sitting under that shit in the back. Like, maybe it's just a shadow, but does anyone like kind of see a flat line that doesn't match the direct? Maybe there's different lights that would create different shadow casts, but under that white thing in the back, like, could there be? It kind of looks like there's like a straight line, like kind of vertical to the bottom of the screen, but it looks like whatever object there is a straight line sitting under that robe. I'm gonna, like, when I'm done with this, I'm gonna zoom in on that and be like, is there actually an object sitting under there? This girl. So that's one of the medics. So he says, no, no, no. What is he motioning down there? Jonathan's like getting his phone for something. He's about to talk to the medic. Look at the medic's body language here. He's going to turn and face Jonathan. And he's saying something to Jonathan, and the officer's like, no, 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 no. Ear? That's what I said? Do you want to double that back and see if any of you... I'm not a good lip reader. So... It looks like he's saying something like, it was something about grab my phone and then behind the ear. And then he's like, it sounds like whatever the way Swayne is wording the question, Jonathan's like, no, it was like the phone. Okay, so I think this is kind of where they are in the testimony. And yeah, I think in that moment where we just saw like Jonathan, he's like talking, and then all of a sudden he kind of gets like a face, like his face is a bit more like he is realizing what's going to happen, or he's starting to realize what is in their heads. Yeah, can you imagine the difference if the paramedics had gotten there first before the police officers, if this could have gone any differently? Because it honestly looks like the paramedic turned to face Jonathan Majors, and he was trying to talk to Jonathan Majors even when that hand from Officer Swayne was visible in the camera. So we can't hear, but presumably, this is New York, you speak with your hands, right? So if you see that hand come forward going like this, Swayne is probably saying something like, no, so what's going on? Listen to me, not him. But the paramedic was still, he turned his body back towards Jonathan and was trying to speak with Jonathan. Like, yeah, and I'm agreeing, like, you do see, like, he said she scratched me, that's why he points to his cheek. And, like, you do see his facial expressions start to change a little bit. At first, it just seems like he's thinking and recalling and giving detail. But then it's like, it's starting to become, no, I just told you, you already know the context. She scratched my face. And he's starting to get cut off by Officer Swayne when he's trying to repeat the details to the paramedic that just arrived. Wait, did he do a handcuff motion? Oh my god, I missed it. Hold on, do you mean back? Let's go see that. Look at his face. Look at him. Oh my god. Oops. Okay, so this paramedic was already up here ahead. This man looks like he drinks every night. I'm not trying to judge anybody, but I'm judging in this video because somebody got judged unfairly. I'm gonna judge everybody now. Look at this dude. Like, this dude does not look like he gives a fuck. Oh my god, we so need the audio. And Daisy, I'm going to go back to your timestamp. Jess is all right. So we're getting some motion. Let's pause there and go back to Daisy pointed out 11:27:35. Because I'm like trying to look at all different stuff. I'm like, where are these sleeping pills? Like, why are they not in the bathroom with the supplements? Why would the sleeping pills be somewhere separate than where the supplements are sitting? And then let's see, 11:27:35. So right here. Okay, so Jonathan Majors is in the other thing. And is the officer in the back looking at him? I should have been more diligent about. Okay, so this guy in the all the way in the back of the closet is looking. So it would make sense that he's motioning with his wrist right there. Oh, thank you, BT. Hold on, I'm gonna pull that back up in 1 second. That's crazy, because he is going around his wrist, and he's not pointing to a finger, because his fingers aren't extended. So it makes sense to me to assume that that's a handcuff motion. He's telling the guy in the back. And he points right back to where Jonathan Majors is standing right after he makes that motion when this guy walks in, when Hanson walks in. And now look at the officer coming forward because he just made the call. Yep, I think you got it, Daisy. Damn. That's crazy. So at this point, hold on then, because at this point, we have a little bit of testimony that, oh, pain, side of head. I recall something about pain. She's telling me about pain on the side of her head. But we were just in the little bedroom area where Jonathan Majors is like, the ear, bro. Like, the ear. So at this point, there's been zero questioning to Grace Jabari about what went on with her ear. Even though she, according to her testimony, she mentioned it. But Swain, in his testimony, has only mentioned the finger, and then he comes in and makes his handcuffing motion on what we're watching in the video. Like, they don't go back in and question after hearing Jonathan Majors say something about an ear injury. He just goes in and he's like, Okay, and then let's do that again too. 27:35. All right, let's just watch this again because listen. So we'll skip going back to here, but Jonathan Majors just tries to tell the paramedics what happens. Swain takes over the conversation. Swain goes right back in, and within seconds, there's no time to ask additional questions about what he heard about the ear. Daisy observes this here. Makes this wrist motion, like handcuffs to me. I agree with Daisy. Right while that officer's looking, Hanson goes in, he points back out there to where Jonathan Majors is standing, and the officer's like, all right, yeah, you just motioned something with your wrist that looks like handcuffs. I'm coming, bro. And the paramedic, the lead paramedic guy over here is trying to come over here and see what's actually going on. And they're like, no, it's fine, bro. We're gonna just make the arrest. Look at him. He's like, his arm's up there on that doorway, like, let me actually see what's going on, me and the other paramedic. Oh my god. So let me pause here. BT, thank you so much for your super sticker. I definitely appreciate it. Going through this, I sent a $20 check to the foil, so I'm going to say you are the sponsor of the 19 exhibits that the prosecution is sending. So when I get those, I'm going to call you the sponsor. And then let's see. Did they really need so many officers? Looks like overkill. I mean, they heard that there was something juicy going on at a penthouse apartment in a rich area. They're probably all just wanting the tea. We see the same thing with the judge in this case. He wants to hear the tea. You know. And yeah, the 911 call, he mentioned she had an ear injury too. And I do believe that was towards the end of the call when he was already switched over to the paramedics, right? So it might not have been something the dispatcher noted, but it would have been something that possibly the medics coming in and knowing there's like this other weird injury that Jonathan Majors is now reiterating. Again, there's one medic in the room already. The second medic that Jonathan Majors tried to talk to before Swain ended that conversation real quick is this guy. We see his back standing here with the cap on in the video. I'll I wonder, Swain's got his hand up here in this mirror image over here. Maybe we should pay attention to the mirror there. But yeah, they retrofitted the ear injury to claim he hit her when strangulation was off the table, but no battery charge. Okay. Yep, and there was, when those hearings were still under Rachel Pauley, Chaudhry and Seth were in there, like, calling that out. They're like, prosecution changed their story once they saw Jonathan's statement of the version of events and saw the surveillance video, and now they're changing it to rework their claim of what happened that night. Yeah, Hanson just looks like, all right, bro, I'm hungover. Just tell me what we gotta do. So there's one bottle for sure that's like, I think the brand is Golly. Golly. Well, I'm going to look it up before I just say something random. Yeah, Golly. They have bottles that are like that. It's like a pinkish, kind of reddish, maybe magenta is the right color, sitting there with everything. And then... Oh, you're right. So Jonathan Majors wasn't saying about the ear. He was saying she scratched my face. So you could totally be right about that too. I mean, in any case, I don't get how Officer Swayne is going to be able to be the testifier about what's going on in this video if he can't hear his audio and he doesn't remember this on his own. Like, that's really the crazy part. So Daisy's being like an awesome observer here. And on the flip side of that is, you know, we're sitting here watching things, but we have someone on the stand in this trial that's trying to discern and work out a story of what's happening to testify to it. And testimony, you're presenting your evidence so the jury can decide if it's factual or not. You're presenting something that you believe is to be factually true to the jury, hoping that they find your testimony credible. Yet, we're sitting here discerning it. We're not on the stand. We're not supposed to give a truthful account under oath. But Swayne is. He's under oath, and he's just, like, trying to piece a puzzle together while looking at this. It's not even refreshing his recollection, because he's still saying, I think, I don't know, I'm not sure. And it's... and it's sometimes, for all the problems in general with, like, police officers, just benevolently, a problem that I can't fault them for is, if, especially in New York City, you answer a bunch of crazy calls all the time, how are you actually supposed to remember details 8-9 months later? Right? For all other biases aside, even just purely in a bubble, how can we expect recall to be strong and accurate for something that they see over and over? It gets bored. This guy Hanson looks like he's trying not to puke himself because he drank too much last night. Maybe he doesn't even drink. I'm just making assumptions that have no basis in reality. But at the same time, someone wearing a badge sitting on the witness stand in court just has, like, elevated credibility with the average person sitting in the jury booth. So, pragmatically, they don't actually have good chance of recall. They're not personally impassioned into each of the things that they respond to. And then they're asked to give testimony months down the line, sometimes years down the line. But the jury sees their badge sitting there. They're usually on the clock when they testify, so they can get paid for their testimony as a day of work. And with the badge sitting there, they look like they're supposed to be credible by the way they're packaged and presented. But how pragmatically, all biases aside, are we supposed to expect a human being to remember something that they're not personally interested in 9 months later, that they see dozens of instances of weekly, if not daily? But just an unfortunate reality. And then you add in all the biases on top of it. They never go to that address. They just wanted to go into the building. That's why they have all their cameras out and are taking pictures. If you look at the background with Major sitting, they really are all just standing there like goo goo gagaing about the apartment that they're standing in. Like, it looks like someone's in the bedroom want to go back downstairs and look at the other 2 floors. Daisy says, before Swain went back into the closet with the hand motion for the arrest, JM says, she scratched me. Okay, let's do that again. And I believe it. Pokes to the cheek area. And then Ernest, yeah, I'm not trying to give him grace, but I'm just saying, even from the start, from the initial basis, before we add in all these other things that we can poke at someone's credibility, I just don't even think we can expect a human being to have recall about something they're not interested in paying attention to in the first place. Then you add all those other layers, and it's just like, it's garbage by that point. So let's go back to see, because you guys are the Daisy is our expert lip reader. Okay, so like right here. Let me get rid of me. Oh, she scratched me. He definitely says she scratched me. Right? See, look how confused he is right before he's like, no, she scratched me. Let's go back to where the medic first walks up. Because the medic seems to want to listen. And then Swain is like, no, no, no. Look at that when he leans in right there. He's like, what? That's the moment he realized Swain is 110% on some bullshit. Damn. I want to look at my phone. She scratched me. Yep, he's definitely saying she scratched me. And he's like, I already told you that. His face clear as day in that moment is like, bro, I literally just told you all of this. Oh my god. Just, I can imagine I'd be like sweaty as hell and starting to get like real, like, these people are out to get me. Okay, so let me double check. So we're at the point in the testimony where, oh, that's Sergeant Hanson that we're looking at right now. Who is Sergeant Hanson in this video? So we must be back up here. He was the patrol supervisor that day, and you could keep playing. What are you doing with Sergeant Hanson at this point? Just going over everything I've been told. So we see him in the mirror motioning with his hand. And then, who are the individuals straight ahead? Let me move me. I keep going to this wrong template because StreamYard won't let me rearrange the templates. But they do ask here. Now, at this point, you're speaking to the defendant. Oh, if we pause right here, there are individuals straight ahead on the left-hand side. Who are they? Those are the EMTs. Okay. Do you guys, like, he's not really... I'm trying to look at this mirror in the background. Raises his hand once. They go back out. Was he talking into the phone? Was Majors just talking into the phone there? Let's see. Because that looks to me like how some people will hold their phone because, like, the microphone will be at the bottom of the phone. So, and this would have been, it's stamped at 11:28 in the morning. I wonder if in the moment he, like, was like, let me get on the phone with someone because they're about to do some bullshit. Because I don't think Elon was on the phone the whole time. Lucero's like, what is he doing with his phone? He looks like he's saying, I never, what does he say there? Showing the buttons. Okay, we've got some testimony here that matches that part that we're watching. So, okay, so if we pause here, there are individuals, the EMTs. Now at this point, you're speaking to the defendants. That part we just looked at. Without getting into the substance of what was said, is there a reason why you're speaking to him for a second time? I just feel like at this point, I didn't have the whole story of what happened last night or the night before this. And you mentioned the night before this. Why was your attention drawn to the night before as opposed to this point in time that we're looking at? Based on the information I was given, everything took place the night before. Nothing had happened on the morning of the 25th. And what is the source of that information that you just relayed to the jury? Both the victim and the defendant. Objection, Your Honor, characterization, that will be stricken. And that's actually kind of a good point because this question is like you just go and speak to the defendant and you say that just now you feel like you don't have enough information. But you only just spoke to the defendant again. And that's where you find out that something's wrong about your information. But then you characterize it as if the victim and the defendant both told you that. So it's a little bit unclear. They're going to ask the question again. So ADA Perez says, that was a determination based on information you received from Mr. Majors and Ms. Jabari. If you could use Ms. Jabari's name, thank you. All right. Oh, okay, so the court transcriber must have went back and I bet this said the victim. And the court transcriber made it say the victim, Jabari. Because otherwise this doesn't make sense. But presumably Swain might have said from Mr. Majors and the victim. And then ADA Perez is like, if you could use Ms. Jabari's name, thank you. All right. What's going on at this point? She's getting evaluated by the EMTs. At this point, what, if any, injuries did you notice on Ms. Jabari at this point in time in the body camera we're looking at? At this point, the EMTs pointed out the laceration on the back of her ear. Which ear is that? Her right ear. Is that the same ear we observed her indicating earlier with her right hand? Yes. So now they're trying to confuddle, clean up. This is the prosecutor trying to clean up his testimony. Oh, pain in my face, but oh no. Now you're becoming aware of a laceration behind her ear, and let's associate that with her touching her face. At this point, had Ms. Jabari given you any indication as to the source of the injury to her ear? I don't believe so. Well, from her testimony, we know that she asked, what happened to my ear? What are you doing at this point in time? Okay, so let's go up to where he is taking pictures of the back of her ear. I love that this medic is like blocking the doorway though. Let me get rid of my face in case it ends up blocking something. All right, so now we're at her ear. But she was touching the other side of her face. Hanson's over there on his phone in the background, not paying it. You see how quick he starts to pay attention? Look at his head jerk up in the background over there. All right, so I think at this point they're actually introducing the images that they took as exhibits. So if we go back over to the transcripts here, he says that he's taking the pictures and then they pause it. I'm going to show you what I'm marking for identification as peoples 20 and 21. So what's interesting is in what the prosecution is sending me, that's not including these photos that are about to be shown. For whatever reason, they're still sealed, but I thought these came out. So peoples 20 and 21 being shown to the witness. Officer Swayne, I just handed you what's been, maybe I'll have to write with the clerk who's helping to handle it and be like, you're giving me 1 through 19, but 20 and 21 were also public information. So what happened? Unless there's multiple exhibits and we only got some of them. But peoples 20 and 21 being shown to the witness by Mr. Perez. Officer Swayne, I just handed you what's been marked as peoples 20 and 21. Do you recognize these photos? Yes. What do you recognize these photos to be? This is the back of Mr. Jabari's right ear. And is that a fair and accurate? Your Honor, we gave no objection to these exhibits. The court's like, all right. So without objection, peoples 20 and 21 will now be introduced into evidence. Perez, as peoples 20 and 21. Sorry, Judge, I asked it to be published to the jury. They will be published to the jury. Peoples 20 and 21 being published to the jury. Officer, you mentioned you had taken these photos. I took the one photo. Officer Lucero took the other one. Okay, can you describe the size of the laceration? If we could indicate which photo for the record he's referring to, if he's referring to one of those. There's 2 different exhibits. If you look at the back, the number is on there, and I'll designate your attention to People's Exhibit 20. Okay, you can look at that one first. Can you just explain what the overall size of the injury is to the back of the ear? It almost goes the whole length of the back of the ear, maybe, I don't know, 1.5 inches. Now returning to the body camera. If you could hold it right there. Can you describe what Ms. Jabari is doing at this moment with her right hand specifically? She's holding her hair back. Can you describe the color on the right middle finger of Ms. Jabari's right hand at this point? Yes, it's a little purple. Go ahead, keep playing. Okay, so let's go back to this video. This is where they're actually taking the pictures. Well, let's answer this question first. How come the police never took photos of Jonathan Majors? Very thorough investigation they did. So we have someone saying, I don't know what happened 19 times. We have someone else saying, I know what happened, and here's my face scratched up, and here's my arm scratched up, and here's my button scratched up. We don't get any evidence of that. I mean, I don't have an answer. That's a good one. Yeah, and the blood on the bed, so that I think that came out more during Hanson's testimony, which I don't have. Maybe we'll see some of it in Swain's. But we heard from, people in the court, and I think some of the news reports that he mentioned that there was blood on the pillow or the duvet at the top area of the bed, but that he took no photos of what he says he saw. Okay, so they're playing a little bit. They're playing this part here. So we're supposed to be able to see her purple finger here. So this is now Swain taking the picture. And you can kind of see the swollen knuckle up there. But I think, he's being aided by having the photos right in front of him too. That medic the main medic back there wants to come in and be like, what is actually going on? And Hanson's in the background just like, when is this going to be done with? Hands all moving in the corner there. So they're questioning while they're playing. What is she doing with that right hand specifically? She's holding her head, using her right hand? Yes. You mentioned that Ms. Jabari referred to an incident from the night before. What, if anything, did she say just strictly regarding the incidents from the night before? They got into a fight. Did she explain where? Yeah. Where did the fight occur? And I'm going to pull this up. Where did the fight occur? In the back of a vehicle. Did she explain to you what, if anything, happened in the back of the vehicle? Yeah. What, if anything, did she say? She tried getting, Your Honor, just an objection, sustained. What did you do in response to the information Miss Jabari gave you? Because that was going to be hearsay. Because they're saying what she said to them. What did you do in response to the information Miss Jabari gave you? Just tried to inquire more of what had happened. You inquired with her? With both parties. At this point, where is the defendant in relation to Miss Jabari? At this point, he's either in the bedroom or down on the first floor. Okay, at this point, what are you and Miss Jabari doing without getting into the substance of any conversation? So let's keep playing this. Heck yeah, the EMTs are like, all right. Because you notice they were like crouching down speaking with her, and then when the officers come in, they're standing up there and kind of looking up at the sky. I bet that that's like a friction in general anyway, you know, like professional to professional. Look at Hanson in the background. So she's sitting normal at this time. She's obviously talking. At this part of the testimony, Swain is asked, and we're going to repeat this and watch the body language too. Okay, at this point, can you just explain Mr. Jabari's demeanor without getting into the substance of what she said? Visibly upset. Again, without getting into the substance of any words that she said, do you recall who she's speaking about at this point in time? Mr. Majors. Okay, and officer, am I right in saying her demeanor is still the same at this point? Yeah. Officer Swayne, what time is it at this point? Okay, so they're giving 11:36 a.m. So we've got like 3 minutes. You guys want to try to see if she says anything? So I wish the camera was a little bit lower, but you can see her talk some of the time. So she's looking down, like her eye, you can see the top of her eyelids. Now her eyes are open again. But for that moment, she was like looking down and talking. And she's looking down again. We can't see her mouth. We can see that her eyelids or her eyes are looking down. Now she's looking up. Swain's motioning with his hand. Now she's doing something with her forehead, right? You see that order? She doesn't touch her face that whole time. Not above the camera view. And now he motions with his arm, and then watch her hand. Watch her forehead. Looking down again. She is... Okay, this is like a minute... This is like a minute straight of her. She looks up a few times right as it seems like Swain says something. But the entire time she's talking, she's looking down like this. Now she's visibly upset. She bursts into tears. Her mouth keeps dragging. Okay. I noticed this a little bit earlier. Like way earlier, like before they go out and talk to Jonathan the second time. Her mouth at some points is dragging like this when she talks. And I noticed it just here too. I don't know if that's like always how she talks, because I don't think I've seen a video of her talking. If she posts a video of her speaking live, right now she's just posting a bunch of stuff like she's flooding her Instagram stories with a bunch of like pat on the backtivist type of content. Like, why are we talking about the Barbie movie, which I was in, instead of talking about the massacre that's going on? Like a bunch of stuff like that, which maybe that's a valid point, but it's also very cliquey and look at me, let me virtue signal type of conversation. But when she posts a video of herself saying something instead of just screenshots of other people's sayings to co-opt someone else's thoughts as her own, I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch she talks outside of her mouth. Actually, not metaphorically. But see if you notice her draw right here with her mouth. Honestly, it looks like she's she's describing things that were said and talking about, like she's not describing any physical type of scuffle. There's no, like, she's not swinging her hands around or enacting different motions. Oh my god, this damn angle of her part of the closet wardrobe. Yes, 100% that. Like, oh, the people had to check on me because they saw I was upset in the little garden in our London apartment. Oh, we got the neck motion. And then now they're going to take a picture of her neck right after he makes this motion. But you notice how he ducks out right there. So they don't know where Majors is. Look why he's looking. That wasn't a concern. They did not know that Majors was gone when they started doing this choking motion. Yet they made this whole story like, oh, she had to ask us to make him leave before she could really tell us she was strangled by him. But why would he be craning his neck out there after he says it? He looks like, oh shit, I should have checked first. Watch his face. It's like, oh shit. That looks shifty. That looks shifty as hell. Like, I'm going to pause because I don't want to miss if her face pops up. But that guy McFly says, for DV, all they need is a sign of struggle. If your french fries are knocked off the table, they could use that as probable cause. Yep, and they tried to use the candle swipe, everything knocked off the desk, as exactly that. Yeah, Daisy, yeah, she's being strategic with her social media engagement. We see through the bullshit. Yeah, I don't like to be judgy, and I don't want to write off everyone that cares about a cause as being a virtue signaler. That's not what I'm trying to do. But she put up like 4 back-to-back things about like, it was always someone else's quote or words. And back-to-back in her stories. And it's just like, girl, you're just trying to like find a new crowd to hang out with or something. Like, I mean, do you, whatever. But I'm gonna judge how you're doing you. So. Okay, and her head's popping up in the bottom here a little bit. It looks like a bunch of the watch boxes might be up there in the top. Some of them don't look big enough to be watch boxes, but they look like jewelry gift boxes. Up on that top shelf on the left. Oh, her underwear in the sweatpants. Or maybe it's his. Maybe it's his boxers. Okay, so let's pause. Let's get an open shot. So yeah, there's a video on Chillmonger's Shorts of Swain doing the choking motion. That's part of Hanson's video. So I have that here. We can jump to that right now too, just to let's see where it is. So anyone listening or watching this on replay, this video that's interjected right now is not Swain's body cam. It is Hanson showing Swain from his body cam when the motion, the choking motion is made. Now I'll just let it play in case I skip something important on accident. Oh, so he might be saying there that he's out there, or he's in the other room, or because he points with his phone. Okay, so there we have the motion. So it sounds like he's asking like to do it 3 times, because I think like he put his you put his hands around you, because you do kind of have to clarify, like, did he just touch your neck, or was he active, like was he trying to cut off your air circulation, right? Because there's a difference there. So the way he touches his neck 3 times seems to me like she volunteered something and he's asking probing questions to get further details. Let's look. And he's going to take these pictures. Again, guys, this is Officer Hanson's body cam footage, but it's Swain that we're seeing there. The medic is trying to figure out what the hell these cops are on up in there. Okay, she's pointing to her like sternum. Right, let me get rid of this little thing. Watch her here. Look how she's looking down the whole time she says all of this. That seems like shame. Look, if I was explaining to someone about what somebody did to me, and I get that everybody's different, and in either case, she's probably hungover in this moment, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't be animated. I'm gonna get adrenaline talking about it. I'm gonna be like, he was choking me. Like, I'm sitting here, you still have him standing out there in that room? And I'm telling you he was choking me? I'd find some strength to stand the fuck up and be like, either I gotta get out of here or you gotta get him out of here. And I'm not everybody, right? But at the same time, I can't imagine how someone would be sitting there trying to, you know, and we can't hear the words, but she's looking down the entire time she's speaking about whatever it is she's saying in this moment. And then we get this little bit of like, okay, and then yeah, we're going to take the pictures of these 2 or 3 little lines on my neck. That's just not really how I would imagine anyone that got choked out would be telling someone they got choked out. It would be way more like, yes, around my throat. Like, not like, she didn't really like want to say it because she's not retelling something that actually happened. Yep. And let's focus on that. So Eliza says she did testify that she used the cops to get out of their relationship. Well, then she used the victim's compensation fund to get a little payola. She used her friend Ben Toddy to come pack. She asked on Lucero's body cam while walking out of the apartment, oh, is this going to be in the media? And then she sat there looking up the stories about the case. So we also have Iron over here saying, I wonder if she's aware of people still looking into this case, looking closely into this case. I'm sure she does, because we know she was Googling herself and looking at information on the case, because she was the one that saw the news report about the iCard, which seems like Priya knew she would find that, and texted Kelly Galloway herself, like, hey, oh my God, this news report is saying that there's an iCard out for my arrest if I come back to New York. Prosecution didn't tell her that. She found out from the news. She testified to that. So she's probably still out here closely watching the case. It's probably why she's cycling between privating her social media account and then unprivating it to make a bunch of virtue signal posts. But hey, if she wants to spend 2 hours of her day looking into her bullshit, I welcome her. She can come on the show. She can come talk to me. If she says something truthful, I'll believe it. Honestly, I've changed my mind on stuff before, but I don't know what she has in the arsenal to pull on out that I wouldn't have questions about. So I don't think she'll be wanting to come on, but kat@KattWagner.com if you ever want to come talk to me or anybody that joins this chat, we're down. Same thing. You know, we went over Holly Blakey's testimony yesterday. In that moment, that was December. Holly Blakey probably didn't know that much about the case. If Holly Blakey comes across some inconsistencies, it's possible she could change her mind and realize, as I think, she was fooled and thought she was doing the right thing when she was testifying. But maybe she sees differently, and unfortunately, testimony is still what it was, you know? But yeah, I think the problem for Grace Jabari is not that she's having any type of reflection or accountability, but she might be worried that someone that she needs Ben Toddy, she needs Holly Blakey. That's where she gets her work. That's where she was able to go right back into working after this happened. They supported her. They made a show of support right after Holly Blakey got done testifying. She's probably nervous that someone that she needs in her corner could have questions, and you guys were talking about it a little bit. She's got to be worried that people don't trust her. That's a big thing in Hollywood. Even if, you know, choreographer, someone that helps on the set or is just kind of in the background as a dancer, doesn't need to be, you know, the PR person, the face of a movie, right? It's still important because people don't want you to be on set messing up anything else that's going on there. So, I think this girl is crazy. And yeah, I think Holly prefers to be fooled, and she's a mom with kids. She's 36. She already transitioned towards doing choreography as a business, which gives her a better longevity, you know, right? As you age and don't want to be the primary dancer, exerting that physical force all the time. She's got a business that she's running, and she's a parent to 2 kids. Like, there's no reason for her to have to go and, like, unravel something. She could just keep on living, right? And that sucks for Jonathan Majors, because her testimony still, I don't think her testimony was actually bad for Jonathan Majors at all. But her testimony was something that I think she tried to elicit sympathy for her friend, her current friend, and a very strong friend at that point in time. Do you mean Jabari as an act? Yeah, I know she's like focusing on acting as part of her career now rather than being, you know, on stage live, like now screen acting. So interesting, but probably already filmed, right? Would you say probably already filmed by this point? She's starring in, if it's coming out this year, it's probably already filmed. Possibly. And let's see, let's line up this testimony. Because at this point, it's 11:36. Did we get to 11:36? Yeah, so we're beyond that. Cool. So they're in the middle of all of that picture taking, and they're asking these questions. Did there come a point in time where Miss Jabari expressed concern about what you would do with the information she was telling you? Yes. What was that concern? She didn't want Mr. Majors to get in trouble. Now, I'm going to put my own 2 cents in there. Yeah, one person could say victims don't want to get their abusers in trouble. Valid. But if he's not an abuser, there isn't a pattern of her not wanting to get him in trouble. Because the one example they tried to put forth of that, she actually did go and seek medical attention to try to get pills. There's apparently some record that she did go get medical attention. So she did go get those pills. She didn't try to protect him. So it's invalid for her to even claim that she was always trying to protect him, because she didn't. There isn't a pattern established at all. We have Holly Blakey testify that this was the first time she was ever like this, upset like this. Which means it wasn't a pattern of this happening to her. You know? So she didn't want Mr. Majors to get in trouble. So yeah, one person, the prosecution, tried to say that was a sign that she was a victim of a pattern of abuse in a long-term relationship with Jonathan Majors. Another person could say, you don't want someone to get arrested because it can open a rabbit hole. You'll have to give a statement, and there's penalties if you give a fake statement. If you give a statement against somebody, they're going to be mad at you, probably. Why would they not be mad at you? There's all these other reasons why someone could say something, show hesitation about wanting to say something. Like, it could also be, hey, I already told you that I fought with him in the second car and that's when my injury happened, and you keep motioning that you're going to arrest him anyway, and I'm not sure exactly what I want because I'm not sure if he's going to take me back, but if you get him in trouble, I know damn sure he's not going to take me back. So I could be expressing to you that I don't want you to go and write any of this up that I told you because I don't want to deal with it. I just want to be able for you guys to go away and for Jonathan Majors to come in this closet. I don't want you in the closet. I want him in the closet with me. Like, that seems like the obvious explanation when we see her sitting there staring at the ground and then all of a sudden bursting into tears suddenly. She remembers that the breakup's happening. There's someone else already in the picture. So. And then, yeah, Grace Jabari always wanted to have what Jonathan Majors had, so the acting thing doesn't surprise me. Okay, yeah, so already filmed, meaning it was likely filmed during the 9 months while Jonathan Majors was suffering through this dragged-out trial. Yep. Isn't that annoying how someone else can go on happy as a clam while their lie has someone else roped up in 9 months and then some of bullshit? So, if you could look towards the right of the screen, who is that again? Okay, so they have Sergeant Hanson on the right side of the screen and they want to keep playing. We don't have a timestamp, but they did back it up just 5 seconds. What, if anything, did Sergeant Hanson just do with his left hand? So they're watching this neck part again. Wherever that was, somewhere over here. So yeah, okay. What, if anything, did Sergeant Hanson do with his hand, his left hand? He's touching his neck. What did you do in response to Sergeant Hanson doing it? I asked her more about what happened with her neck. So that's why we pointed out on Hanson's cam, he touches his neck 3 different times as if he's asking more detailed questions. Okay, what, if anything, did she say with regard to what, if any, well, withdrawn. What, if anything, are you doing here? I'm taking a photo of her neck. So let me get there. They're going to ask to pause at the point where she's taking a photo of her neck. And then they're going to ask to go back 10 seconds. If we could just identify the timestamp. And then starting at 21:58. They must be going by the video, right? Okay, so 21:58. Yeah, they're taking the photos. At 21:58, can you explain to the members of the jury what Ms. Jabari is doing with her hands? She's pulling her shirt down to allow me to take a photo of her neck. What fingers on her right hand is she using to pull her shirt down? Looks like her middle finger. Okay, and is that the finger that, well, actually, I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 15. It's already in evidence. I'm sorry. So they show 15 to the witness. Do you recognize what I just handed you as People's Exhibit 15? So I'm assuming that they pause this. They don't specify. The other parts where they were going through video, they were very good so far about we're stopping here, we're starting here, and this part they're just flubbing through it. So before you ask the question, is 15 in evidence? It is in evidence. Do you have it in front of you? Do you know what the question is? Oh wait, so did we? This is Zuckerman questioning, right? No? Oh, Zuckerman's agreeing that it's in evidence. Do you have it in front of you so you know what the question is? Zuckerman says, we do not, Your Honor. Just show them. This way, they know the question you're about to ask. Let the record reflect I'm showing defense counsel People's Exhibit 15 and handing it back to the witness. Officer, what is People's Exhibit 15? It's a photo of her middle finger, her whole hand. When you say her, who are you referring to? Miss Jabari. Which hand is that a photo of? Her right hand. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how her finger looked while you were in the closet with her at this time? Yes. You could keep playing. 5 seconds. If we could go back now. So they're playing at 21:51, and they're going to ask if we could watch what Miss Jabari is doing at this point in time. Now what did she just do with her right hand? So let's look at 21:51. And they're going to play this twice to really show the jury that she's using her finger fine to brush her hair. Even though it's obviously purple at this point. She's pulling the collar of her shirt down. At this point, you were, what if any noticeable injuries did you notice on her right finger? Right on her. There was bruising on her right finger. Fair to say she was still able to use her finger? Yeah. What are you doing at this point in time? I'm talking with Sergeant Hanson, so let's see. That must have been a little bit like right after these pictures. At this point, did you have some indication as to the source of Miss Jabari's injuries? Yes. Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. Overruled. ADA Perez. Specifically, did you have an indication as to the source of the injury on her finger? Yes. What about her right ear? Oh, so hold on. And let me show you this transcript. So this is where he's done. He's talking to Sergeant Hanson. Barely, because he moves past him. Sergeant Hanson stepping away. And then he's charging out this way. Let me pull this up. Let's look at this. Remember how they went through on redirect and were like, oh, here's random text messages from September 2022, and who caused your injuries on March 25th? Jonathan Majors. Like, they just kind of like dance questions around that on redirect. This questioning here says, specifically, did you have an indication as to the source of the injury on her finger? Yes. What about her right ear? Possibly, not 100%. So, they don't ask about an indication for the source of the finger. At least not at this point in time, they don't probe into it. Maybe we'll see it, but they just say, yeah, you have an indication. And then we don't know about the ear. So then they want to play, but I think we'll stop at some point here. Is there a time period that both sides agree to the body-worn camera should end at? It's in a few seconds. That's why we're stopping. It's in a few seconds. So, all right, we could work that out over the weekend. Weird. Are you done with that? Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen a body-worn camera of Officer Swayne that was introduced into evidence by the people. And that body-worn camera was introduced. The parties have agreed to the following purposes. It's viewing the actions of the police officers, the demeanor of the complaining witnesses, and a viewing of the injuries. The body-worn camera, as you saw, was played without video. Without audio, I presume that's supposed to say. And the reason for redacting the audio portion was because there are times when the court is, as I told you earlier this morning, required to exclude certain evidence that is inadmissible. You are not to speculate on what may or may not have been contained in the audio portion of that video, nor make any efforts, such as reading lips, that might assist you in ascertaining what may or may not have been contained in the audio portion of the video. The only purpose that that's introduced, as I said, is to view the actions of the officers, the demeanor of the complainant, and a viewing of the injuries. Thank you. Officer Swayne, so that's just like, oh, you get to see them asking about a neck, but we don't get any testimony conclusively about a neck thing. But this is for you to figure things out without asking further questions about it. Just go with exactly what's in front of you and nothing more. But what's in front of you is a bunch of questions and speculation that we don't have testimony on. We get this vague question about, was there indication here as to the source of the injury of the ear, but we don't go into what the source of the injury or what the indication was. What about her right ear? Possibly not 100%. And then the instruction is like, use what's in front of you. Don't use anything more or less. So Perez goes back to questioning. They no longer have the body cam footage. just so you guys can see, the copy that I grabbed stops pretty shortly after they get down to the first floor and go out into the hallway. So there is like some time here. I don't think there's anything that important. There's Lucero's showing something on the phone. It might be unrelated to the case, honestly. Was that Major's driver's license or ID or whatever? Yeah, that looks like his ID. I mean, I don't know why he would have someone else's ID. And then let's look at some of these comments here. We'll get the testimony back up because we'll keep reading it. But yeah, so everyone has their comments about... Well, yeah, so let's go back to this. So I think, Iron, you said this before the judge's jury instructions, but if only there were folks like you in the jury more attentive. But then we're getting this instruction, hey, don't be attentive, don't ask questions, don't look at anything else, just look at what's happening and take that in as it is. Like, they're literally being instructed to look at these motions and saying, hey, that's what you've got to go on. Don't ask further. Don't probe further. And then, yeah, so talking about the different motions that are being made, when he was pushing her away while she was attacking him, he probably pushed her chest and lower neck. Don't apologize for being late, Tracker. I'm like replay crew all the time for other people. Unless I don't know, like sometimes at like 9 at night, like I'll start cooking and someone will be streaming and I get to watch it in real time because I love to just have my phone playing while I'm cooking something. It makes me take forever to cook because like I gotta like wash my hands and then go join the chat. So it'll end up taking me like 3 hours to cook something because I'm watching someone's live stream, but that's how I do it and I love to catch one live, but never apologize. I'm always replay crew almost. So Daisy, yeah, those text messages after seeing, I think the day that we kind of all realized that Swain was like, well, yeah, we did have some neck motioning or whatever. We were all like, oh shit. So it's even crazier that she's after she was evaluated, right? She sends those text message that the strangulation charge does not have her blessing. But we got some information from Danny and some reports from the court that when Dr. William Shang testifies, there isn't this injury of there was no evidence of any injury to the back of her head, that she claims she was struck in the back of her head at some point, nothing with her neck. You know, she knew at that point that there was nothing with strangulation, and she already talked to the DA. So she knew that the DA was going to go forward with what the officers had relayed, and that she signed off on the DIR. And then she's like, oh, and then I get evaluated. And now I know that that's going to be a bold-faced lie, because how can I say someone strangled me and then I have a medical examiner treat me and look me over and they're like, there's no evidence of that. So she goes and tries to make a second statement, right? Presumably because we have 2 inconsistent statements that she signed off on from different points of time throughout this day on March 25th. She signs the DII report and then she signs something at something else at the hospital that conflicts, but she signs both of it. And that's why in redirect, they're like, you didn't go to law school, right? You don't know what you're signing. You don't know what observe means. But she goes and signs these conflicting statements and then runs and sends this text message, just got out of the hospital, blah, 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 please call me, I love you. And then I just got off the phone with the DA or whatever. She's going to tell the judge everything that she does not have my blessing on the strangulation charge. But she doesn't come out and text Jonathan Majors and say, oh, all these charges are bullshit. You know what I mean? She just specifies, I told them you didn't strangle me. So, I mean, I have questions. She knew. She knew her lie in the moment, at the very least, that strangulation charge was going to blow up in her face. She knew. Because she knew that she told the police, and then she got evaluated, and there was no indication that anyone did anything to strangle her. That's why she had two conflicting statements. Yeah, someone leak the audio, please. Why the hell wouldn't anyone, let alone the jury, want to speculate the audio and just use a muted video to make a decision? Well, the other thing is we get audio in the medic video, right? So we know that at some point we're going to have testimony. I don't think it's the medic's video. I think it was Hanson's video, but the medic is present in the video, and the medic is the one heard saying, like, asking about the puke in the bed or whatever. And Grace Jabari testified to that part too. It was like a short clip that was able to come in with the audio. And it's like, you guys could have redacted or silenced out, maybe she's talking about her medical history or prescriptions she takes, and they don't want that it's not relevant to what happened in the case. It's private medical information and they want to block that out. Fine. But give us the rest of the audio, But they're just like, oh, let's 20 minutes of quiet and then we're going to stop the body cam before someone's actually even arrested. So, okay, so Eliza says, yeah, she kept changing the story and Priya was cautious about putting out any more info because the story changed 3 times. Yep. And remember, you could kind of try to give her a pass and say it was the police that wrote up statement 1, but she's the one that came along and wrote the second complaint language in full and complained about the language. Like, the reason that they did that was because she said she wanted to correct the officer's statements and words. So she's still the one that comes out the second time and is like, oh, I had a bruise in my arm from him pushing me into the car, after she sees Jonathan Majors say, look, the only thing I did to her was I picked her up to try to put her back in the car because there was traffic next to us. Then she comes out and makes that statement, makes that correction. And that was after Priya already knew that there was no evidence of the strangulation and whatever else. But yeah, it's creepy that she was willing to lie about strangulation at all. And it's just kind of like, the way she's sitting there looking down looks like she's a kid that got in trouble for something she did. And like, like a kid will go and blame their sibling to try to avoid getting yelled at, even though their sibling didn't do something. Like, no, like they're just looking down that whole time. That's the demeanor she has in that video when you're able to see at least the tops of her eyelids. She's looking down. Probably was always using this man. Oh, man. Rage, honestly. That's the type of thing. So, Iron says, I wonder how Jonathan felt and reacted when he heard she basically lied about what she texted him. That's the type of thing, like, I'd have to speak to someone and really get help with that, because that's the kind of thing that I could be minding my own business, 3 a.m, laying in bed, and just, like, start thinking about that, and then just get upset about it and frustrated about it, and why? Like, how did this come to be? And you just get stuck in that cycle of thinking about it. Because it's like, there's no answer that's justified. There's no way to comfort yourself. It's some bullshit that happened to you. So I'm sure he felt some type of way, and that's something that's just the type of thing that pops up into your head. And it just sticks with you. It like plagues you. There's like it's like an awful feeling to be told you're someone you're not, or accused of doing something that you didn't do. To me, it's like a worse feeling than actually making the mistake and like having to deal with the consequences of it, So Daisy says, yep, she specified the strangulation real fast in her text to Jonathan Majors, but didn't mention her permission for the other charges. Just playing dumb. Yep. Dollar store Uma. Ah! Now she has to use his trauma to rebrand herself. Yep. That's why I think a lot of her content is going to be focused on worldly causes, right? Because she doesn't want to look like she's this person that's coming on to co-opt someone else's experience as her own. She just wants to jump on a platform that she can meet other people through and look like a good, virtuous person in doing so, and leave that in the shadows, right? But she knows that in the background, everybody's going to have that in the back of her mind in association with her, that she was a victim of something according to this trial. If you butcher the verdict. There's no note, just you knowing what happened. Come on. And then Adriano, it seems like a lot of people want Jonathan to be charged for being a bad boyfriend instead of focusing on the events in the night in question. And I think that's, you know, it goes way beyond Jonathan. That's a big factor in a lot of, like, the gender wars, if we're just going to call it that. You know, some of these other cases that come forward. You know, I do think, again, let's bring up the Diddy case. I personally think there's credence to the more egregious things that Cassie alleged against Diddy, right? I do actually believe that just from that petition, right? We didn't have a trial. We didn't have evidence come out. And I don't like to judge settlements as an admission of guilt. But in this situation, I still think it's possible. He said, I don't want to take this to trial. I don't want more to come out. But people will take something that happened to Cassie, what she's alleging happened to her. And they'll find a way to put themselves in that person's shoes. Like, let's presume that everything that happened to Cassie is true and factual. There are people that will be empathetic and sympathize with her and kind of use a discussion about that type of story that someone else experienced and try to insert themselves and co-opt that person's actual victimhood, right? Again, just hypothetically, we're saying Cassie was the victim the way she said she was. People come along and co-opt a story like that and take their, I had a boyfriend that broke up with me and I didn't want the relationship to end, and now I think it was way worse than anything more normal than that, right? And they just co-opt someone else's victimhood just because they don't like an experience that happened to them that wasn't abusive, it wasn't violent, there was nothing wrong about it, it was an outcome that they didn't want, that they weren't happy with. And now they have to build up this huge complaint, this huge mountain out of a molehill to justify why they're irrationally upset about someone else doing the rational thing of breaking up with someone they didn't want to be with. Because they're on the flip side of that coin. They did not want to be broken up with. And they can't accept that someone simply it wasn't working out with them. They got to come up with all these excuses in the end to protect their ego. And, like, you know, there's these cases where it doesn't always get to court, doesn't always make the news, but even things like the type of people, they go and slash someone's tires or key their car, that's all get back, right? And it's all the issue of, I don't want someone to leave me, or I'm mad someone moved on from me. People don't typically go key someone's cars because they were abused and battered by someone. They typically go, you broke up with me, you're dating someone new, you cheated on me, which maybe it's not okay you cheated on me, right? We've got like a bad mistake on the other party there. But it doesn't justify vandalism. It doesn't justify destroying someone's property. It doesn't justify going up on their property if their car's parked at their property, probably in the middle of the night. Criminal mischief. You know, just because someone has infidelity, which is morally and ethically wrong, could be wrong civilly too. It could impact things like divorce agreements. But it's not criminal. It's definitely not criminal in Manhattan to have infidelity. And to come up with this whole excuse just to justify the way you reacted because you couldn't handle the idea of not being chosen. Like, everybody has to learn to do better than, I'm not saying people out here do what Jabari did, but everybody has to be okay with the idea of being broken up with and moving on. There's no justification for chasing someone for 5 blocks. There just isn't. You can't tell me there's a reason you can chase someone for 5 blocks because they texted somebody else. And that you can hit them and then lie on them and then keep that lie going for 9 months. And then when all is said and done, after they're acquitted of 2 charges and stuck with some violation ticket and a reckless 3rd-degree assault charge, you go and shout out some victims' nonprofit organization. An organization that very well could be helping actual victims of abuse. You insert yourself as being a part of. That's co-opting someone's victimhood. And you are not a victim of anything except being cheated on, Grace Jabari. Being cheated on and having no emotional intelligence and no general life skills of how to deal with an interpersonal problem. An interpersonal problem. That's what Grace Jabari is a victim of. And it's nuts. And that's why I think people like Holly and Ben and anyone else in the industry, it's not going to end with one person being the fall guy for the next thing Jabari doesn't want to have accountability for. It's just not. Ugh. And then we have Zach pointing out, so the it's just fake text. Did she text all those messages by using both phones and he woke up to them all? Is that what he meant? I mean, I'm not really sure, but I would love to know what came before those text messages. All we know is that the very first one starts with him saying it's just fake, that the jury was able to see. So, this girl. So where are we in this testimony? So, all right, so they're going to talk about Officer Hanson. They just finished this instruction. Officer Swayne, you had identified for the members of the jury earlier in your body-worn camera video Sergeant Hanson. Can you explain to the members of the jury what Sergeant Hanson's role was in this incident? That's the guy we were like saying he's just standing there looking like he just got off a hangover and was just waiting for it to pass, waiting for the day to go by. In this incident, we tell him what we've been told. At this point, we thought we should make an arrest. Sergeant Hanson is the one who would have to approve the arrest. And when Sergeant Hanson indicated to his neck earlier, as you saw him on the body camera, did Ms. Jabari ever indicate to you that there was any strangulation in this particular incident? Not with regard to what happened the night before only. This is mischievous. I mean, are we talking like penal law strangulation or... Right. What do you recollect? Did she ever use the word strangulation? No. Okay. Did she describe the parts of her body where the defendant made contact? Yes. Now, based on the evidence that you had learned at the scene, did you then make an arrest of the defendant? Yes. And after making the arrest, where did you go? To the 10th Precinct Station House. Okay. And who, if anyone, did you accompany to the 10th Precinct Station House? Mr. Majors. Oh my God, imagine being arrested and having to ride with Officer Swayne. Oh my God. He's probably sitting in there asking you about your penthouse the whole trip. And do you know where Miss Jabari went after this incident? Yes. Okay, where did she go? She went to the hospital. I'm not sure which hospital. Who, if anyone, accompanied her at the hospital? Officer Lucero. I have no further questions for Officer Swayne. Thank you very much. Before we begin, can we approach? So they have a sidebar. May I, Your Honor? Zuckerman's like, all right, we're taking over cross-examination. Good afternoon, Officer Swayne. Yeah, let's actually pull that up. I don't know why he says we thought when he was the only one... Like, so they're motioning back to each other. Hanson's standing outside. He's not really listening. He introduces his testimony. He says he was the arresting officer that night, right? And then he's like, well, Sergeant Hanson had to make the decision. I had to tell him what I heard so he could make the decision. And we thought. But if you go back to that video, right at the end after this next stuff, he like walks by Hanson. like, should we pull that up? Maybe I'm imagining it wrong. Let's just go back real quick. That was like towards the end here. So this is like when they're taking pictures of the ear. And yeah, doesn't want to say which hospital, but we keep talking about his title as a domestic violence officer, domestic violence incident. And his torso's faced here. He could be turning his head to speak to Hanson at this point, but at the same time, all we can see... Oh, the damn underwear. It honestly looks like she put on a pair of, like, his boxers or something and his sweats and was sitting there in his clothes to get cozy for the night. So I take these pictures, and then let's see. He's about to walk out. Right here. So the medic comes in. Hanson looks like he says one word, and then Swayne is just going by. So where is this whole conversation that we have to fill Hanson in on everything, and we made a decision? No, that's not what's happening here. That's not what's happening, even by the video that you had to watch to figure out and remember what happened. Yeah, man, that's gotta suck. So I had to sit in the back of a police car to give a statement once. And like it was when I used to work at a restaurant. I used to work at a Golden Corral many years ago. And some people found out, let me get the story straight. So another server that worked there which was a young girl. I don't even think she was 18 because I think he could be 16. Some other girls found out that she was working there. They had beef with her. They called up a bunch of other people. When I tell you it was like at least a dozen people that came to jump up this little, and she was shorter than me. I'm 5'8", 5'9". This girl was like at least a head shorter than me, like maybe 5'4", 5'5". I just see a pile dive, and they're at this girl, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And like, I'm in there just trying to help, right? And I got cut up. I got cut up like Jonathan Majors' face. I have like, it was like a scratch here, and there was like a scratch on my neck. There was like right here and right here. So they had me give this statement. I'm sitting in the back of a police car. And while I was glad to not have to work for like 25 minutes, you're just like sitting in the back. You're in like this like plasticky kind of seat, because I'm assuming it's got to be easy to clean down, right? And then there's like this gate here. They're trying to talk to you to get a statement out of you. And like, I don't know. It's not very pleasant in there. And I wasn't even in trouble for anything. I was just giving a description of what happened. But yeah, can you imagine sitting in the back of a police car? Like, what if they started driving with me and they're like, well, we're going to charge you because you were part of this fight, even though someone else started the fight. You were just trying to end it and you have scratches on you. If they started driving away, I'd be like, I'd panic. Like, how did we get here? But it is not a pleasant, I don't imagine why they would make a cop car a pleasant, comfy ride, but it's not pleasant, and it wasn't even pleasant when I wasn't even being charged or accused of anything, so I can only imagine. Yeah, they were hot. So he walks right by Hanson in that picture. His testimony doesn't match. And then, yeah, Jonathan covered when he found her naked in the closet. Yep. So to me, it looks like, unless that underwear and sweatpants are like sitting there for another reason, it looks like she had taken them off in there for whatever reason at some point. Like, who knows? She's a visual artist. Whatever vision she had in her head, I'm not understanding. So let's see. So cross-examination. Good afternoon, Officer Swayne. Good afternoon. And this is Seth Zuckerman, by the way. So we had ADA Michael Perez, and then for the defense, Seth Zuckerman. So the guys are leading this testimony here. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm inclined to agree, is that she pissed herself. Especially since we know she like puked in the bed. Like, she couldn't even get to the toilet to puke. Now, you mentioned that on March 25th of 2023, you were working patrol. Is that right? That's correct. So your response to 252 7th Avenue had nothing to do with your role as a domestic violence prevention officer, correct? Correct. It was just a coincidence that you happened to be working patrol and you responded to this location, correct? Yes. Now, if you're joining this late, it's because the prosecution and Officer Swayne just kept repeating, like sprinkling in, oh, you're a domestic violence prevention officer, right? And they just kept saying that phrase over and over and over because it's a way for them to drop that idea repeatedly, even though they're not supposed to, in a pretrial motion, they're not supposed to say that domestic violence occurred that night. They're not supposed to use the word victim to refer to Jabari. Being able to use his title is a little wiggle worm around that. So Seth opens right up like, they kept calling you that, but it's just some bullshit, right? So you showed up. It wasn't because of any alleged domestic violence, correct? Correct. Now, the body cam that we watched a few moments ago, that had the time at the top of it. Isn't that right? Yeah. And that's the real time from that morning, correct? As far as I know. You believe it to be accurate? Yes. You responded to 252 7th Avenue and you saw Mr. Majors in the lobby, correct? Yes. And he's the one who escorted you up to his apartment, correct? Correct. And he walked you into the first floor, correct? Into the apartment, yes. And he led you to the bathroom and to the closet, correct? Correct. And he was cooperative, correct? Correct. And he was in a hurried tone, correct? Yes. So we had all this testimony from Swain on direct, like when he had to ask what Grace Jabari was doing. It's like, yeah, she was upset, but now it's just like, correct, yes, when we're talking about Jonathan Majors. And he answered all of your questions that morning, correct? Correct. Now, when you found Miss Jabari lying on the floor, she was in the closet, correct? Correct. She wasn't between the closet and the bathroom, correct? She was in the closet. Fully immersed into the closet, right? Yes. You wouldn't characterize that as between the closet and the bathroom, right? It's off the bathroom, in the closet. But no part of her was in the bathroom, right? No. And isn't it true that upon approaching Miss Jabari, you suggested to her what may have happened to her? Isn't that right? Objection. The judge says you could go there, but be a little more particularized with your question. Sure. Well, withdrawn. I'll rephrase. Officer Swayne, did Miss Jabari ever indicate to you that a few minutes earlier she was texting with her friend, Holly Blakey? No. You never learned that she was texting at 11:07 a.m. with Miss Blakey? No. Completely unaware of that text? Objection, objection. You could redirect on that. Do you think that would have been important context for you to know? Objection, sustained, because that's going to be speculation. What time would you say that you were in the closet with Miss Jabari? Can I look at the body camera? Can I look at the body camera or no? Probably 11:20-ish. So you didn't know that 13 minutes earlier she was, objection, sustained. It appeared to you that Miss Jabari had passed out in the closet, right? Objection. Whatever your perception was of what you saw. Yeah. And you asked her several times what was the last thing she remembered, correct? Correct. And she didn't mention texting Holly Blakey. Objection, sustained. That would have been hearsay, right? Because she would have had to have said that. Did Miss Jabari ever mention to you that she had gone out to a dance club? Objection, the night before. Sustained. Again, hearsay. Did Miss Jabari mention to you how much she had to drink the objection the night before? Sustained. Now, at a certain point, isn't it a fact that Miss Jabari asked what happened to my finger and you responded, did he hurt your finger? Objection. The judge says, if he remembers. Swain says, I might have said that. You suggested it to her, correct? Objection. The judge jumps in. No, he said he might have said it. Zuckerman says, okay. So it's a possibility that you suggested. Objection to Miss Jabari. Don't use the word. He said he might have said it. Would anything refresh your recollection? And then Swain says, body worn? So if you, he's asking to see the body worn. Okay. If you listen to your body cam, your recollection would be refreshed as to whether or not you suggested that to Miss Jabari. Objection as to the word suggested. And then Zuckerman says, whether you said it to Miss Jabari. If I listen to it, yeah. Zuckerman says, can we please? The court says, all right, just tee up the exact time and the headphones. Officer, what you'll do is, the way we're doing this is we're going to give you a laptop with the headphones in it. You're going to listen to it. They're going to put the timestamp on it where they want you to listen to it. Listen to it. If it does refresh your recollection, just let us know, and then you'll take the headphones off. Okay, ask the question again. Sure. Why don't you take a look at the video and see if that refreshes your recollection? Watch the video first? If you want to just ask the question so he knows what he's refreshing his recollection as to. Sure. Isn't it a fact that Miss Jabari stated to you, I wish they gave us the cue. What happened to my finger? And you stated in response, did he hurt your finger? Okay, so, isn't it a fact that Miss Jabari stated to you, what happened to my finger? And we have her, yes, I say that, on her testimony. And you, Officer Swayne, state in response, did he hurt your finger? Okay, just watch about 8 seconds. Yes. It refreshes your recollection? Yes. Okay, ask your question. And so Zuckerman repeats the question. And that's what you said to her, correct? Correct. And her response was, because his first yes was saying, yes, that's what she said to me. And the judge was like, yes, it refreshes your recollection. Trying to like give him a buyout. And her response was, I guess so. Yes. At any point that morning, did you learn that Miss Jabari had taken photos of her injuries earlier that morning? Before we were there or after? Before. I did not know that. Did you know that sitting here today? No. So you're not aware that prior to your arrival at the apartment, Perez asked and answered, Judge. He just answered that. Did Miss Jabari ever tell you that she had cleaned her ear prior to your arrival? Objection, sustained, because it would have been her hearsay. Did you ever learn whether or not Miss Jabari had cleaned her ear prior to your arrival at the apartment? No. Did you ever learn that prior to today? No. Did you ever see photographs that Miss Jabari had taken prior to your arrival on March 25th? Objection. No, you could answer that. No. Did you ever ask to see Miss Jabari's phone? Objection. It's the relevance of the question, Judge. Come on up. So they have a sidebar. All right, Mr. Zuckerman, just re-ask your question. Sure. Officer Swayne, did you ever ask to see Miss Jabari's phone? No. Did you ever speak with Holly Blakey? No. Do you know who Holly Blakey is? No. Now, you mentioned on direct that Miss Jabari had stated to you she had taken a sleeping tablet, correct? Correct. Did you ever ask to see the sleeping tablets that Miss Jabari had taken? No. Did you ever look inside the medicine cabinet? No. Did you ever ask if Miss Jabari had taken any pain medication? I don't believe so. Did she ever mention that she had taken any pain medication prior to your arrival at the apartment? Objection, sustained, and that's because she mentioned, so it would have been hearsay. You did ask Miss Jabari what, if anything, you had you taken, correct? Yeah. And the only thing she responded was sleeping tablets, correct? Correct. One of the first things you asked Miss Jabari was, did she fall? Isn't that right? Yeah. Because your training and experience thought it was consistent with the possibility that she had fallen, correct? Yeah. Objection, overruled. When we arrived, yeah, possibility. And because Miss Jabari didn't know why she was on the ground, correct? Correct. Because she didn't know how she was hurt, right? Objection. No, that last one is sustained. And then Zuckerman continues. Because Miss Jabari was clear to you that she didn't remember how she sustained her injuries, right? Objection, characterization. The court says, I don't think there was testimony that she was clear, so just take that word out of it. So Zuckerman rephrases, Miss Jabari told you that she did not recall how she sustained her injuries, correct? When we first arrived. And that was prior to you stating to her, did he hurt your finger, right? Yeah. She had asked you several times while she was in the closet why she was in the closet, right? Correct. We saw on your body cam that at some point you exited the closet and went to speak with Mr. Majors, right? Correct. And at that point, you had a conversation with him, correct? Correct. And you were trying to figure out what happened? Correct. And you had told Mr. Majors that you believed that oh, God. Scratch that. Strike that from the record. And you had told Mr. Majors that you believe Miss Jabari's finger was broken. Objection, sustained. Isn't it a fact? Probably because of like a medical, I don't know. That's weird. Isn't it a fact that you told Mr. Majors if you smacked him, you wouldn't break your finger? Objection, judge, sustained. Do you recall telling Mr. Majors that if you had smacked him, objection, you wouldn't have broken your finger? Sustained. Why? So why would this conversation have been there? Because Jonathan Majors says, well, she slapped me, that's how she broke her finger. And the court sustains it all. You observed that Mr. Majors had a torn coat, correct? I didn't see it. So to me, it sounds like this is the reason that the audio can't come in. At least part of why the audio can't come in. That right there. That's why. At least one of the reasons. You observed that Mr. Majors had a torn coat, correct? I didn't see it. It's your testimony you did not observe that Mr. Majors had torn his coat? Yes, and answered, Judge. You could answer. Did you see it? No. Was that Hanson's? I think that might have been Hanson's video where he's like doing this with his coat. Or was that Swain when he went out the second time? This is why I didn't want to like watch both at once. But I wanted to show the choking motions. When does he go out? Where do we have these buttons being pointed at? Oh, so it must have been before this. So that might have just been on Hanson's. Oh, but he's out there for this part. Okay, this is even better that we have Swain on. I swear this is the part. Let's make sure. So let's see. But more importantly, in the video, I think we're going to see Swain standing right there when he's pointing to the coat. So either he's not giving a shit what Jonathan Majors is trying to tell him, or he's lying because he did see it. So he either wasn't paying attention and doing a good job in the moment, which is also probably true no matter what I'm about to say, or he's lying on the stand, which both could be true. Because he was able to see from his own body cam this moment. He's standing right there. And in this angle, maybe on his camera's angled too high. Can you imagine if police officers wore like a head camera, so that way you could see like when their head turns what they're actually looking at versus, you know, from the chest area. So Swain's turned around, so we don't actually see Swain because this is Hanson walking. Swain's looking that way. Okay, so that is a little bit unclear to me, but maybe there's another part. Because, like, reading this and doing this live, like, you know, sometimes things blur together for me. So it's your testimony that you did not observe that Mr. Majors had torn his coat. Asked and answered, Judge. You could answer, did you see it? No. But they were standing in an elevator, so he should have seen that just if the very first thing you're doing when you arrive somewhere, before there's any distraction, you're stuck in an elevator with an officer that's your partner, and then this person. Should you not be observing the person in front of you? Like, so it doesn't matter that maybe he was turned around at that particular moment where Jonathan holds his buttons out and points to both buttons. Why didn't he observe that in the elevator when they're this close together for however long that elevator ride is? So, did you ask him if he was injured in any other way? No. That's negligence. Did Mr. Majors point out any injuries to you? Objection. You could answer that. No. At some point upon your arrival at 252 7th Avenue, were you and your fellow officers commenting about the size of the penthouse apartment? You were commenting about the size of the penthouse apartment, right? Objection as to relevance, Judge. Sustained. You asked Mr. Majors if he actually owned that apartment, right? Objection, Judge. Sustained. Did you ever ask Mr. Jabari how Mr. Majors sustained his injuries? Objection. Sustained. Can we approach? Yes. So they have a sidebar. So, interesting. So this is all sustained back to back. You comment about the penthouse apartment. You ask him if he actually owned it. And then did you ask Mr. Jabari how Mr. Majors sustained his injuries? All of that's sustained, and then Perez asks for a sidebar. They come back. Now, Officer Swayne, after Mr. Majors was arrested, so they don't, whatever the judge says, this conversation can't continue. Did you ever ask Mr. Jabari how Mr. Majors sustained his injuries? That line of question, at least as far as the sidebar, as soon as the sidebar is done, Zuckerman's moving on. That line of conversation can't continue. Now, Officer Swayne, after Mr. Majors was arrested, you obtained what's known as pedigree information. Isn't that correct? Correct. You learned his height and weight. I would guess so, yes. You would guess, or you did? I don't recall. It's required for an arrest report, right? Yeah, it should, yeah. It should be, or it is. It is. You learned that Mr. Majors is 6 foot and 200 pounds, correct? Yeah. You also filled out a handwritten complaint report in this case, right? Correct. That's also known as a 6-1? Correct. This was done at March 25th at 12:15 p.m., correct? Correct. So basically, within an hour of them arriving, so no time for them to go and do much other questioning. Where were you at that time? 10th Precinct Station House. And you were not with Miss Jabari at that point? No. Did you ever observe on Miss Jabari a laceration to her eye that morning? No. Did she ever complain about a laceration to her eye that morning? Just face pain. I'm sorry. I think just face pain. Pain to the face. I'm asking about a laceration, a cut. No. Isn't it true that you wrote in your complaint report that Miss Jabari suffered a laceration to her right eye? Objection, Judge, as to foundation. That's improper foundation, the judge agrees. Did you write in your complaint report that Miss Jabari had suffered a laceration behind her right eye? Do you have the complaint report? Yes, I do. So Mr. Zuckerman says he's showing the witness what has been marked as Defense Exhibit 509 for identification, handing a copy to the people. Defense 509 being shown to the witness and a copy for the judge. Officer Swayne, would looking at that report refresh your recollection? Yeah. Okay, take a moment and let us know you've had the opportunity to review it. Okay. Isn't it true that you wrote in your complaint report that Miss Jabari suffered a small laceration? Objection, Judge. Reading from the document, it's improper. Just rephrase the question, but you could ask it. Officer Swayne, isn't it true that you had written that morning that Miss Jabari had sustained a laceration behind her right eye? I did write that. And that's not true, correct? Not true. Okay, we're done with that exhibit. Zuckerman says, thank you, officer. Now, officer, also on March 25th, you signed a criminal court complaint in this case, correct? Correct. Where were you located when you signed it? I was at the DA's office. That's down here at the courts? Yeah. When you signed that criminal court complaint, that was done under oath, correct? Correct. And that's under penalty of perjury? Correct. That's the same oath you took sitting here today, correct? Correct. And you had an opportunity to review the complaint before you signed it, correct? To ensure its accuracy? Correct. You confirmed it was accurate, correct? Correct. And you wrote in the criminal court complaint that the location of the alleged incident was 252 7th Avenue. Isn't that right? At the time, we didn't know where it occurred. So you signed under oath a complaint that it occurred at Mr. Major's apartment. If we don't know the location, we go to where we're filling the 6-1 out for the victim in the complaint report. Well, you well knew that was an inaccurate statement. Objection sustained. Writing that 252 7th Avenue is the location of the incident is inaccurate, correct? The location was unknown. So you put down Mr. Major's apartment? That's where the victim was. Objection, asked and answered. You could answer that. Do you want to read that back or do you want to re-ask it? If you don't mind. So they asked the court reporter to read back. Writing that 252 7th Avenue is the location of the incident is inaccurate, correct? So they read that back, but you put that down as the incident location. Isn't that right? Asked and answered, Judge. That was asked and answered. Wouldn't you agree that's a false statement? Objection sustained. You also put that location in your police report as well, correct? Correct. Even though you knew that did not occur at that location. Objection, asked and answered. You could answer it. It's a different report. We don't know the incident location, so we just go with where the victim was. Your Honor, I'm going to move to strike as not responsive on the characterization. No, that answer stands. Officer Swayne, you also wrote in the criminal, because I think that, I agree, you're supposed to, because the complaint contained language of the actual, this is where, I sustained these injuries. When they're saying incident location, the incident is no longer, I responded to and spoke to somebody. The incident being described in the complaint is the actual incident where the injuries is occurring and the injuries that he's being charged for. So the incident location should be a location of the incident. It's not like they're saying the incident means me having a conversation with Jabari in a penthouse. The incident in the complaint is everything happening where the taxi cab had to pull over, where the black lane driver had to pull over. And we already know from earlier in this testimony, Officer Swayne was like, hey, I realized at some point before the arrest was made that we weren't actually sure that everything happened right then and there. It seemed like we were missing information and that stuff had actually happened the night before. So we already have testimony from Swain that he knew the incident didn't take place in the penthouse apartment before filling out this complaint. So they try to move to strike on the characterization of Swain saying, we didn't know the incident location, so we go with where the victim was. It's not really a good characterization if you're not supposed to do that. Because he's saying, so we go with where the victim was. He's acting like that's normal part and parcel process, standard operating procedure. So Zuckerman tries to object on that characterization, but the court says it can stand. Zuckerman continues questioning. Officer Swayne, you also wrote, so hold on, this is exactly this. The jury just forgave this typo. Officer Swayne, you also wrote in the criminal court complaint that Ms. Jabari had observed Mr. Majors put his hand on her neck. Objection, reading from the, isn't that correct? It's overruled. So they don't want you to read from the document, from the evidence, but yet the prosecutor's allowed to read text messages without answering any questions before or after them. They're allowed to just read the text messages for the witness because she starts crying because she doesn't want to read them. But here we have 2 objections in a row from Mr. Perez saying, objection, reading from the documents. Like, come on. And then, by the way, guys, if you missed the redirect of Grace Jabari's testimony, they had asked one question, Ms. Jabari, do you know what the word observe means? And she's like, no. And they're like, where did you go to law school? Because she didn't go to law school. So they're trying to say that Ms. Jabari doesn't understand what she's writing when she signs a statement saying she observed Mr. Majors put his hand on her neck. So, because her signature is also on this report. So the judge overrules this objection about reading from the document. You could answer that. Correct. Are you aware that claim has been withdrawn? Objection. If you're aware. No. So he's not aware that that claim has been withdrawn. So you're not aware that it's been withdrawn? No, I wasn't aware. Did you ever speak with Ms. Jabari after March 25th? No. Did you ever speak with the driver of the car they were riding in the night of March 24th into the morning of March 25th? No. Did you speak with any of the witnesses who saw Ms. Jabari on the street after she exited that vehicle? No. Did you speak with any of the witnesses who were in the nightclub with her? No. You didn't speak with any of those individuals before making the determination to arrest Mr. Majors. Isn't that correct? Objection, Judge. You could redirect on that. You could answer that, officer. No. Your arrest of Mr. Majors was based on the conversation you had with Ms. Jabari, correct? Correct. And you said on direct that Ms. Jabari was in a foggy state, correct? In the beginning, yeah. And at that point, you had not obtained any surveillance video. Isn't that correct? That's correct. Now you mentioned on direct that you determined that you were going to be taking a domestic incident report. That's a DIR. We've seen Jabari be questioned on this DIR because she signed it. Isn't that correct? Correct. Just because you take a domestic incident report doesn't mean that a crime has been committed, correct? Correct. It doesn't mean an arrest needs to be made, correct? Correct. You could take a domestic incident report and refer it to a detective to investigate further. Isn't that correct? Any incident could be a dispute. Anything. So, basically, that's like, I forget who said it earlier in this chat, but they're like, yeah, if you spill French fries, someone could say that that's domestic violence and turn it into an incident report. So this is exactly that point here. Any incident could be a dispute. Anything could be referred to a detective in your precinct. Could be to evaluate it further, depending on what's written on it. But you didn't do that in this case, correct? Correct. Do you know a Detective Ronnie Mejia in the 10th Precinct Detective Squad? Yes. That's the same precinct that you work in, correct? Correct. Do you know Lieutenant Rich Conti? Yes. He's also in the 10th Precinct Detective Squad? Yes. Those are both very experienced detectives, correct? Objection. If you know. Do you know? Yeah, yes, they are. Are you aware that Detective Mejia ended up arresting... Objection sustained. Did you ever come to learn that Ms. Jabari was also, objection, arrested for what happened? Sustained. Did you ever evaluate whether Ms. Jabari had assaulted Mr. Majors? Objection. At the scene? At the scene, yes. Judge says you could answer that. Do you want to ask that again? Sure. At the scene, did you evaluate whether Ms. Jabari had assaulted Mr. Majors? Well, we asked him what happened. Did you? Because it seems like he kept trying to tell you. And then you were trying to tell him something else, and he was like, no, I just told you. She scratched me. Did you ask Mr. Jabari what had happened with regard to Mr. Majors? No. Officer Swayne, upon observing that Ms. Jabari was bleeding from her ear, did you look around the apartment to see if there was any blood anywhere else? Walking through, gave a quick glance. What do you mean by a quick glance? Looking at whatever I'm passing. But you don't look outside of where you were passing? No. Did you go into the bedroom and check the bed? No. So you didn't see any blood on the pillow? No. Perez objects. Judge says he didn't go into the bedroom. They have to walk through the bedroom. What? Why is the judge saying this? So the judge says he didn't go into the bathroom. Zuckerman, did you see blood anywhere else in the apartment? No. Let me rephrase that. I worded it poorly. Did you see blood anywhere in the apartment? No. Did you observe that there were candles lit in the apartment upon your arrival? Oh, we did get a question about that. Did you observe that there were candles lit in the apartment upon your arrival? No. You don't recall that? No. During the course of your time at the apartment, you interacted with Mr. Majors, correct? Correct. During the entire course of the time you interacted with Mr. Majors, he was cooperative, right? Correct. Objection. It was asked and answered. You could ask that question. It was only about the first time I asked before. You could ask it. Do you want to ask it one more time, or you got the answer? Officer Swayne, when Miss Jabari told you that the last thing she remembered was being sick in the bed, did you ever ask what made her sick? Maybe. I don't know. Did you observe that there was throw up in the bed? Objection. Did you observe it? No. You never went into the bedroom, right? No. So is that room not the bedroom? I mean, I know there's like couches on the long side and whatever. Is there like another? I just thought it was like a long-ass bedroom. And that the door that they're all entering in was the one that was locked. Do I have this all wrong? Where is the bedroom? Like, isn't that the bed? I feel like I'm being gaslit. I feel like I'm being gaslit by the judge. No, but here, so Ernest, what I'm asking is, this is the bedroom they're walking into right here. What's on my screen right here? That's the bed on the right-hand side, right? Like, the bedroom door was locked. This doorway that they're standing in right here, this door. This bedroom, well, not that. Keep going. This is bedroom door that we're walking through. That's the door that was locked. This is the bedroom. So how are these people, how is the judge saying that Swayne never went into the bedroom? Or is there like another bed somewhere? Because I don't see another. That looks like, you know, just windows. I mean, we could probably look at. Do we know the penthouse letter? Was it penthouse D or something like that? Look it up on Zillow. Get a floor plan. I mean, honestly, like, maybe there's just like a million bedrooms, but I'm just confused. Because I know some houses be crazy. I know even his London house, he had like a bathroom with like kind of like an open floor plan and then the bedroom and whatever. But like the pillow should be here because we don't see Swayne go into another room either. And Swayne is going to testify that he looked at this bed. So this testimony is so, or the judge's reaction to the testimony is so weird. Because even though Swayne doesn't testify to us like, oh, you know, he doesn't say I looked at the bed and saw blood, and then they're like, well, where do you do this in the camera? We don't get that from Swayne. Swayne doesn't assert that. They're just asking him just because. But Hanson, on his testimony, is going to say that, oh, I think there is blood on the pillow. Well, did you take any pictures of it? No. You know what I mean? Like the Megan Thee Stallion bedroom, the bedroom. But this judge is weird sometimes, a lot of the time. Anyway, so this is going to be the end of, you know, you never went in the bedroom, right? No. So this is just weird. Thank you, officer. I have nothing further. And then, but presumably, because that's the only door that they're coming through, the door that they come through is a door that was locked. Not the bedroom into the bathroom, but the hallway into the bedroom is the door that was locked, and the handyman had to come in. Right? Baller shit, who knows? There's really just like 80 rooms, and they're all bedrooms. Okay, so redirect. Got like 6 pages, so it's a little bit longer than some of the other redirects. So Perez says, officer, directing your attention to the body camera. Well, if you remember from your memory. Yeah, when you got to the 3rd floor, what was the first room that you walked through? Oh my god. Is this real? When you got to, this is the very first, okay, literally on this page. You never went into the bedroom, right? No. Redirect, which is supposed to rehabilitate your witness. Officer, directing your attention to the body camera. Well, if you remember from your memory, yeah. When you got to the 3rd floor, what was the first room that you walked through? Well, like, what? The bedroom. Okay. Okay, now after the incident, what, if anything, did you do to determine the incident location that Mr. Jabari was referring to? My face is gonna turn bright red. This is so funny to me. This shouldn't be funny. But what is this? This is lines apart. I wish it was on the same page. It's literally, we go from line 24. No, never in the bedroom. And then 1 question. 2 questions. Where were you? The first room. The bedroom. Like, what? And this is the prosecution eliciting this question and answer. On redirect, when they're supposed to rehabilitate their witness and make them credible. So, directing your attention to the body camera, well, if you remember, from your memory. After we just got done not remembering walking into the bedroom, that you were questioning this man on his giant penthouse apartment. Oh my God. And then the prosecution says, well, if you remember from your memory, the prosecution is probably standing there like, when you got to the 3rd floor, honestly, Keystone Cops, that's probably Officer Hanson's favorite drink, his beer of choice. I mean, I'm sure you probably mean Keystone to mean something else, but I'm just thinking of how Hanson looks like he's extremely hungover in all of the body cam clips that we've seen. Like, yeah, this is crazy. This bedroom thing just tripped me up. I've read so much about this case, and the judge has me sitting here like, is that not the actual bedroom? Is there another bedroom somewhere? And then literally the next question on redirect is, what room did you walk in? This is so stupid. Send in all the clown. They were there. There was a lot of them in there. Yeah, I think dunce was the word that she used, that Danny used to describe Officer Swayne. Oh my God. This is just like, come on. I really felt gaslit for a minute there. Like, by the judge. Officer, directing your attention to the body camera. Well, if you remember from your memory. Yeah. When you got to the 3rd floor. Oh, so I'm reading this again. I'm sorry. We're on the bedroom question again. What was the first room that you walked through? The bedroom. Okay. Now, after the incident, what, if anything, did you do to determine the incident location that Ms. Jabari was referring to? Originally, we don't know the location. It was in a moving vehicle. The last spot the victim remembers being is 252 7th Avenue. That's not true, because we have a whole charge here that's sticking and alleging where the vehicle stopped. So get your facts straight, Swain. Like, this is stupid. This guy's stupid. The last spot the victim remembers being. Wow. The last spot the victim remembers being is 252 7th Avenue. So that's the location we used. So now he's shifting it that it's Jabari that remembers this location. Did you come to learn what the actual incident location was? Yes. Okay. And can you explain for the members of the jury what investigative steps you took to learn that? Retrieving video surveillance. Where did you retrieve video surveillance footage from? Canal Street and Center Street. I'm showing you it was shown to you previously as Defense Exhibit 509. If you could just read the bottom part that Mr. Zuckerman had drawn your attention to. Which part? Right. What did you mean when you were referring to I? Okay, so now they're pulling up the complaint. But let's look at this really quick. Where did you retrieve video surveillance footage from? Canal Street and Center Street. So that's only one part. It's only one part. He doesn't say that he obtained other surveillance footage. So, great investigation. Okay, so, right. What did you mean when you were referring to... So, I'm showing you what has been previously marked as Defense Exhibit 509. If you could just read the bottom part that Mr. Zuckerman had drawn your attention to. What part? Right. What did you mean when you were referring to I? That was a typo. Meant to say right ear. When you were in the closet with Miss Jabari before on redirect, you had testified that she had drawn your attention to where on her body the defendant had touched her. Yeah. Did she indicate to you that she was touched on her throat? Yes. Did she indicate that she was touched in the area of her neck? Yes. When you first got into the closet, and Mr. Majors was there, and Miss Jabari, can you explain what, if any, can you explain how Miss Jabari's demeanor changed when the defendant entered the closet? There was at one point, she looks up and has this look of being frightened on her face, kind of like a look of shock. When you're assessing an incident, is it fair to say you don't have the opportunity to go and look for surveillance video at that very moment? Correct. Did you have any reason to believe that there was surveillance video footage in the area that depicted where the incident occurred? No. There's like cameras all over main streets in New York City, so why would you not think that there would be... No. Fair to say you have to make quick decisions when you're responding to a scene. Correct. And the information that you had was your conversation with Mr. Jabari and your conversation with the defendant. Correct? Correct. And again, you notice injuries to Mr. Jabari's body, correct? Correct. How close were you to the defendant when you were in the elevator? Less than 2 feet. Did you notice any injuries on the defendant at that point in time? No. What about the first time that you left the room after speaking with Mr. Jabari and spoke to the defendant? How close were you at that point in time to the defendant? 2 to 3 feet. Did you notice any injuries on him at that point in time? No. And then afterward, you went back to the closet and spoke with Mr. Jabari again, right? Correct. And then you went back to the bedroom and spoke with the defendant. Correct. And at that second time, how close were you to the defendant? Same, 2 to 3 feet. Did you notice any injuries on the defendant at all that second interaction? No. So let me just stop there and say, if I have a scratch, you're going to see it. I've got like a beauty mark in the side of my head that when my hair's buzzed really low, you can see it through my hair. Right? I'm pale. My hair's light. It's harder to see an injury on not just someone with a darker skin tone, but someone who also has dark colored facial hair and the injury is there. Like, but the point is, and they're saying injuries here. They're not saying damage to coat. They're not asking if you saw damage to the coat. They're asking about injuries. It's a very slick question. But yeah, like, and remember on direct, the prosecution also pulled up the pictures of the injuries of the fingers and all that too. So not only you can kind of see like the swollen knuckle in parts of the video, but he also got the pictures put right in front of him so he could see in clearer detail the injuries, you know? We don't have that for Jonathan Majors, and the pictures that he did have are not allowed to come in, even though he tried to show the officers the pictures on his phone. So, but he doesn't notice any injuries on Jonathan Majors. I guess I don't know why he would if he's wearing a coat jacket, and the scratch is on his arm under the sleeve. And then the other, I think it was the side facing away from Swain, under a beard on darker colored skin. Presumably already scabbing, not like fresh blood like Jabari's weird ear laceration. So doesn't notice any injuries. The question is not referring to injuries or damage to his coat. It's just injuries. So no. So did you have any indication or any reason to believe that, withdrawn, Judge, how long would you say you spent with Miss Jabari? And I guess they don't want a redirect to come in, recross to come in there. They could have said something that Seth Zuckerman could have gotten back up and been like, he said he didn't have any indication or any reason to believe that Jonathan Majors was the victim of an assault on that night. If he had asked that question, it could have opened a door. How long would you say you spent with Miss Jabari? Maybe like 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, and that would have brought audio in. That's my point in highlighting that. That would have brought the headphones back out if they wanted to get back up on redirect. So, or recross. Maybe like 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, and after speaking with that time with her, was her demeanor consistent with someone who had attempted suicide? Objection sustained. Had you arrived at scenes regarding attempted suicide in the past? Objection, Your Honor. That question he could answer. Yes. So you're familiar with the signs of that, right? Yeah. I have no further questions for Officer Swayne. Oh, all these like half-assed little questions. They always just like, that's not really even a question. But what I'm going to say here is, have you arrived at scenes regarding attempted suicide in the past? Well, if she didn't truly attempt to commit suicide, if it was just a staging, it's not going to look like an actual attempted suicide either way. So that's probably why he doesn't want to probe further into this question. So Zuckerman tries to object. Then they end their redirect. And Zuckerman gets up. May our assistant approach with the monitor? Officer Swayne, I'm going to show you a portion of your body camera, People's Exhibit 19, which we showed earlier. Can you tell us the timestamp? So we're going to go to 11:29:13. Actually, make sure that I'm not in there. So 11:29. It's about here. Please play. Would you pause it for 1 second? I don't know exactly. Okay. Oh, this is the button part. They're ready for it. It's the buttons. So now, Officer Swayne, that is Mr. Majors talking to a few other officers, correct? Correct. There are other officers from the 10th Precinct, correct? Can you tell us the names of those officers? Officer Lucero, I see Officer Mikjevic. I don't know. Do you want to play it, or could you go back again? So, oh my god, wait. Okay, guys, guess what the next question is. So they're going to replay it again. They're going to go back a little bit. Could you go back again? By Zuckerman. Officer Swayne, that's the bedroom, correct? Correct. So you were in the bedroom. Oh, yeah, I guess. I don't know how many bedrooms there were. Go back one more time. That's the bed, correct? Correct. So they just did what I just did. Making him watch it. And can you describe what Mr. Majors is doing at this point? Okay, so let's just go back to this. So here's the buttons. And he's like, I don't care what he's talking about. And he's just standing here doing nothing then. So he's pointing to his coat. Is he pointing to anything else? Not that I'm aware of. Play. Thank you. Officer Swayne, you didn't try to obtain the video from the taxi before arresting Mr. Majors, did you? Objection. It's really outside. Go ahead. The answer could stand. Thank you, officer. I have nothing further. So that's the end of this. Witness exits. Blah, 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 blah. So there's all of that. That was 66 pages of Swain. And we have established that we were, in fact, in a bedroom at 252 7th Avenue. Like, oh my god. Oh no, we actually, okay, so Tracker, you're getting here. This is a long one because I was trying to play the video through it, and it was 66 pages, so that's I think those were usually taking me about like an hour and 45 when I was just reading them, 66 pages worth. But we were putting the video timestamps, going back and replaying some stuff. This judge is annoying. Tracker, you missed it. The judge tries to say that Swain was never in the bedroom. And then Swain's like, yeah, I was never in the bedroom. And then on redirect, 1 second later, the prosecutor's like, what was the first room that you entered? And they're like, the bedroom. Like, this is just so weird. Oh my gosh. How many times? We could just go, okay guys, if you ever want to like make someone laugh about this case, just go to Officer Swayne's testimony. It's in the drive, in the description. You can pull up this PDF. It's searchable. Hit Control F or Command F if you're on a Mac computer, or look for the 3 little hamburger dot menu thing and look for Find in Page and type the word bedroom and be like, this is why this case is a joke. Because if we go back to this, let's see the first time. Did you go into the bedroom and check the bed? No. So you didn't see any blood on the pillow? No. And then the judge jumps in. Perez objects. The judge jumps in. He didn't go into the bedroom. Why is the judge saying that? And then Zuckerman gets up. You never went into the bedroom, right? No. And then Zuckerman ends cross right there. Prosecution gets up. The second question they ask, if you remember, when you got to the 3rd floor, what was the first room that you walked through? The bedroom. And then Zuckerman gets back up for a second recross. So you go back into the closet and speak with Miss Jabari again, right? Correct. And then you went back to the bedroom and spoke with the defendant. And then... That's the bedroom, correct? Correct. So you were in the bedroom. Yeah, I guess. I don't know how many bedrooms there were. You go back one more time. That's the bed, correct? Correct. Like, this is a mess of a trial. This police officer can't even remember they were in a bedroom. And then the judge is jumping in and volunteering. He never went into the bedroom. And then Zuckerman's just like, hold on. Like, can you run that back really quick? What's... Look at us. What are we walking into here? We're going to go up the stairs. We're going to go through the bedroom door that the handyman had to open. Oh, and actually, can you rewind that? This is the bedroom, right? Can you rewind that? What's that right there? Oh, it's a bed. You're in the bedroom, right? Yeah. Like, so, if you missed anything, you missed Officer Swayne not even being able to tell what a bedroom is. And then the judge offering a huge assist on, oh, he never went into the bedroom. Yet they walk in and out of it 30 million times in this video. So, yeah, that's crazy. I think, so there was it wasn't Holly's testimony. Maybe it was Holly's testimony. The defense seemed to be making the move to impeach someone, and then they had a sidebar and it was quashed down. They were like, they came back and started asking something else. It might have been Holly. I know I just like read that yesterday, but my mind, things are blurring for me. I do want to give an extra thanks. Thank you, BT, again for your super sticker. That was super awesome. To catch anyone up, I know Tracker just got in here. I'd sent off a little snail mail paper check to the prosecution's office because they are turning over exhibits 1 through 19. That's the check fee for them to send a digital copy of everything. We'll be able to see anything that, TMZ and Megan Cuniff had released. Maybe, I think Megan's paywalled her exhibit page. TMZ slapped their logo all over everything. The Daily Mail chopped it up into like a little short. We'll get 1 through 19 in full. There are exhibits that they're not sending because it's still an open case and they're saying that they can't send them at this time, but I'll keep following up with that. So BT is our sponsor for those exhibits, and I'm not going to paywall them like Megan Cuniff. They're just going to exist. I'll make a drive folder. You guys can watch them, look at them, whatever you want to do, and we'll know that BT sponsored that. So, but yeah. So this is where we are. We're finished with Officer Swayne's testimony. I still have Ryan Strick's. I didn't order anything from week 2. I could if you guys want to see some of that stuff. Casey was the same reporter for some of those days, so it'd be pretty turnkey to just request them, send her payment, and wait for her to turn them around. Some of the other days, it was a different reporter, so it'd take some time for the court to approve the request all over again. But you guys gotta express what you think, if that's important to you or not. Honestly, yeah, there's little details that, Danny's only human, Jimmy's only human, the 18 court reporters are like barely one brain cell together. But from what we did get detailed coverage of from Danny, Jimmy, some of the court reporting, they've been really on point with accuracy in what they're telling us, right? I haven't seen anything where Danny got it wrong or Jimmy got it wrong. So if you want to see the specifics, obviously no human person can sit there and give us 25 lines a page as a human person sitting there trying to write things down with pen and pencil, pen and paper. So if you do want to see like line by line some of that other testimony, keep expressing that, we can work it out and get it if it's important to you guys. For me, seeing Grace Jabari's testimony was the most important. And it just so happened to be that because I ordered Monday through Friday, because those are the days that she was testifying, I ended up getting, I don't know why they included Monday. The quote she gave me when I asked for Grace Jabari's testimony was a block quote for whatever amount of pages, and then when she delivered them, it also included Swain, Blakey, Ryan Strick. So, but yeah. You guys let me know. We can talk about the other stuff. I think we have enough here that Grace Jabari is a liar from the transcripts that we're able to see. And if her own testimony is a lie, nothing else really matters to me, even though I'd be happy to read it out of curiosity. It's just expensive as hell to get transcripts from New York State, from courts there. But let's see. Yeah. So Chillmonger says the judge is the reason JM can win the appeal. I saw someone else make a comment about the judge that I wanted to pull up, and I can't find it. It'll come up. But yeah, so I have some mentions here. I know I saw earlier, too, that if Jonathan leaked the text, Jonathan was dealing with a whole ass alcoholic. And that's crazy because one of the main things of alcoholism is denial. Daisy says it's funny Zuckerman was clarifying the closet because Grace said it was the warm bathroom floor that was in between the bathroom closet area. Yeah, because she wanted to come up with some excuse that she didn't just pass out. But then at the same time, at a later part in her testimony, she's like happy telling us she just passed out unconscious and didn't remember anything. So I remember hearing this. You can probably see it in real time if you go back to the court trial coverage and reporting of those days of the trial, where I'm like, oh, well, maybe this is 2 separate points in the night. But no, she was actually testifying to the same moment of when she passed out that she would have been laying there when she was found by police or Jonathan or whoever. That same moment, she gives one piece of testimony saying, it was the bathroom floor and it was warm and cozy. And then it was, oh, I passed out and fell unconscious and I don't remember anything. So it was a conscious decision to lay yourself down on the warm floor on one part. Then on the other, it was a completely unconscious, couldn't help it, I passed out and don't remember anything. Referring to the same instance. And, you're a liar. you're not credible. But secondly, if the passed out unconscious thing, if we're supposed to take that at face value, how can we take you seriously if you're asked to recall details of anything prior to that? You don't remember how you got there. If we're supposed to take that at face value, why are we even listening to your testimony about what you're deducing in that moment while you don't remember anything? It doesn't make sense. And then, so Eliza says at her big age, she doesn't know a common word observe. And they're trying to say, like, in the legal sense, to sign something, penalty of perjury, under oath. But that's okay, because apparently Officer Swayne and the judge don't know what a bedroom is. So why should she know what observe means if the people that are part of the court system don't know what a bedroom is? And yeah, that's the laziest police work ever. And, actually, I don't think it's a rarity. But it's also, like, high profile case, kind of interesting. You would think that this would be an example of them paying a little bit more attention to detail than normal because it's a little bit more exciting and interesting. Maybe in this precinct, the calls are always in these ritzy areas. But they seem to be expressing curiosity about the penthouse on the audio that we can't hear. But that would suggest that this is actually an example of Swain paying more attention to detail than normal. So can you imagine what his police work is like in other situations where it's not a 3-story penthouse that he's coming to some scene to see what went on? It's just a mess. And then honestly, guys, I don't know about the NYPD salaries, but I saw an ad down here in like the Cocoa area, not Cocoa Beach, but Cocoa. And it was like an advertisement trying to get people to want to be a police officer in Cocoa. And the salary was like less than $30K a year. And it's like, can you imagine like the caliber of people that would want to deal with the stress of that kind of job and take $30K or less a year for it? I don't know. Obviously, I'm sure NYPD is probably a little bit higher, but it's also more expensive to live there. Like, you're not going to get the cream of the crop, good police work, good detectives, if that's the benefit package. You're going to attract people that want the position. How does the judge know that he didn't go to... We just watched like 20 minutes over and over of them in and out of the bedroom. So I can't believe that the judge said that. I'm reading through all of you guys, like, helping me figure out my bedroom confusion. Oh, so Keystone Cops is like a type of like action figure? That's hilarious. Oh my god, can you imagine if you got like a doll version of a police officer? Like little kids, they like the Village People. But then your doll police officer is this guy. I should stop making fun of him. He just really does look like he's hungover and doesn't want to do his job. He just wants to let his hangover pass. And that's a total assumption and a judgment. Whatever. Judge's discretion is definitely trash. Yeah, honestly, I think his lawyers have been very sharp through a lot of the things that they're able to talk about. And you can honestly tell. So there were, in Swayne's testimony, for example, there was an area where there was a string of sustained objections. And I got the impression pretty clearly. I can't imagine it being anything other than this. Let me see. Let me type the word sustain and try to find a block of them. It was part of Zuckerman. Not there, because it was like 3 back to back. Oh, yeah, it was right here. Okay, so you can tell that there's certain moments where they know the stuff's going to get objected to, but they're asking the question to ask the question. So I do think that his team was really sharp. And obviously we're hearing about Zuckerman and Chaudhry in the courtroom, but they could have other paralegals that are combing through all this stuff. Jonathan Majors is very observant, so he could be pointing stuff out too. I'm sure Megan is too. If I was a girlfriend and this is my man in court, man, I'm bringing out all the receipts. I'm getting all the transcripts. I'm doing all of this 10 times as much as I'm doing this on a live stream. But you see this here. this is a sign to me that Zuckerman knows the bullshit, but is working strategically around what they're going to be able to get into or not. So all of these questions are going to be sustained, but are you worried that Detective Mejia ended up arresting? Objection sustained. Did you ever come to learn that Mr. Jabari was also, and then it's objected, but he finishes his sentence, arrested for what happened? Sustained. Did you ever evaluate whether Mr. Jabari had assaulted Mr. Majors? Objection. At the scene, yes. So those are examples of like, all right, we're going to steamroll through this and get that question out, and maybe we'll even get an answer before there's an objection in time. So I haven't been following the E. Jean Carroll case, but I have been seeing like some conversation about Judge Kaplan. It's honestly off my radar. But that's a little bit different because that's civil, right? So it'd be a different court anyway. And then let's see. So Ada says, see, Kat, the judge said he didn't go into the bedroom. So now we have a reason to change the judge since he is leading the witness on a lie. And this is like, there was that other time, it bothers me, where he was like, no, Grace, the witness is going to tell you what really happened. Like, come on. No, I don't think they can just like pull up videos in an appeal, but listen, listen. If they want to send me anything that they want me to comb through and find some inconsistencies, totally down for it. And they should know that there's like 43 others of you with your fine-tooth combs out here. And then you know that the room was adjacent to the closet that she found. Yeah, like that was so weird. Like that whole bedroom thing was just, I wish I could see the facial expressions of Zuckerman while that was all happening. And then he knows he has to get up there and be like, that's the bedroom, right? Like, there was a comedian who, and the main point of his joke was that he shouldn't have done an interview, but he does specify, I don't know what I would have done, and I don't know what anyone could do in that type of situation, but maybe give that interview, but he shouldn't have given an interview. But it was actually really good. It's in my history, so instead of just talking about it, let me find it. I think it was a pretty good video. I mean, it's a great comedic punchline. He seems talented as a comedian. It had 250,000 views when I saw it, and it was 2 days ago. So it was really nice to see something that, in my opinion, was pro Jonathan Majors. The whole point is like, yeah, maybe he shouldn't give this interview. But this girl was chasing him. How did we get here? This is crazy. Like, that's basically the plot behind his comedy sketch there. Let me pull it up, and then you guys can go watch it after we close out this video. But it was really nice to see that 250,000 views, because a lot of the other stuff that went viral was just all of this empty conversation about the Coretta thing. And this comedian is going to talk about the Coretta thing, but I don't think it's in a weird way. Okay, Josh Johnson is his name. It's now up to 320,000 views. So let me drop this here in the chat. And I really think it was funny. I think he did a good job comedically doing it. And I think he was fair. I think he pointed out the bullshit of the case. It seems like he did look for a little bit more information. Not to say he's out here like following the testimony, but all these other videos just focus on, oh, he did an interview and mentioned Coretta, and there's a recording of him saying Coretta. He follows down the timeline of why the case doesn't make sense, you know? So I appreciate this video. My Tube Buddy thing is saying that his video is getting 7.6 thousand views per hour currently. That's the velocity right now. So it's still growing. Go on there and comment and like show some support. Like, I think is a good sketch. So like, give appropriate candid responses, but it could be good to have some comments in there sprinkled in like, man, it's crazy what happened to him, right? Let the people read the comments and form their opinions and learn information through the comment section. But let's see. Oh no, Swain is for sure not Knuff. Don't tell Grace Jabari. Grace Jabari has been sitting on Instagram making all of these little like Barbie jokes in her stories, talking about Barbie versus the Palestinian conflict to get her snap points. But she's been quoting how Hillary Clinton, well, she's been quoting someone else commenting on Hillary Clinton, talking about someone not being enough. So someone needs to send her this, and we'll see if she makes that her 24-hour story on Instagram, Eliza's comment. And yeah, let's close on this, because Coretta is a great woman who helped her husband and the nation. How is that not something to aspire to? And by the way, the comedian's point is like, the point is that you're telling this girl to be a black icon. Not just a white girl to be a black girl, but this girl to be an icon. This white girl to be a black woman. And in combination, you're telling someone who's not capable of icon status and is also very white, or whatever ethnic mix, mostly white, to be two other things that she's not. It's not just that he's pointing out, you're telling her to be a black woman and she's not black. He's like, she's also a status person that she's not going to be able to live up to. So that's why I say I appreciate this comedian. Was it Josh Johnson? Those are two very normal names, and I'm going to confuse them. I could say Josh, I don't know. But go watch that. Show some support for the people in the comments that are like, hey, what happened to Jonathan is crazy. And remember, there's 320,000 views on his video. So that's in the live chat there. But yeah, I think people miss in the Coretta combo that both those women, yeah, because it's Michelle Obama, literally the first lady, like the first wife, and Coretta Scott, their wives. Grace Jabari wanted a ring. She probably talked about it all the time. We're going to get married. I want a ring. I want a ring. And then, well, if you want that, then you have to act like a wife. Like, this is why I can't marry you. Exactly. So, just to reiterate one more time, I'll put it as a pinned comment for the replay crew too. Oh, I'm linking to Blue's channel, but you guys should subscribe to him anyway. This is the comedy skit. There you go. And then, oh, and did I miss something? Okay, hey Zach, I'm sorry. Thank you for pointing that out, Daisy. That's so nice of you that you pointed that out, because I totally missed it. But Zach says, have you thought about putting together one simplified timeline of everything you have read in the transcripts? Curious to see it in one list. It's on my to-do list. I will get around to it. Especially like now that I'm done reading through the transcripts, I feel like I have a better handle on it. Again, only week 1 of the transcripts. I do still have Ryan Strick's to go through. I'll tell you guys right now, it's not that interesting. The main takeaway from that is he's like, yeah, everything the prosecution, their evidence is great, but, you know, I can't really say for sure that the defense exhibits of the Jonathan Majors injuries, those 3 photos, I can't really say that I can validate those. So they decide, the judge says, well, you can lay more foundation during other testimony to get that evidence in. And we know that Grace Jabari will not lay that foundation. So we didn't go through that reading yet, and we do have those transcripts here. That's really the main takeaway from Ryan Strick's testimony. It was like 30 pages of his title and his credentials. But Zach, I do appreciate your super chat, and I will continue to try to do that. I also do have a small timeline of the text message inconsistencies and the timing that I should really do a video on, just to highlight that, because that's really the takeaway, right? You have her text her friend at 11:07, then you have her testify that she was passed out and doesn't remember anything, but also that she fell asleep as a conscious decision. And then the police are there at 11:13, he makes the 911 call. Police are there by 11:17, 11:18, and they're up in the penthouse before 11:20. So how is she passed out the way she's passed out? On the floor. And she also texted her friend that she hears Jonathan because he tripped over the suitcase that's on the first floor with lit candles. So I think a timeline would really help people understand why this case is insane, and why, when you listen to the news coverage of it and form your entire opinion on a case on the 1 or 2 sentences per day out of 150 pages, because most days were like 150 to 180 pages of transcript for a full day. When you base your entire opinion of a case and of someone's guilt on 1 or 2 sentences, maybe not even complete sentences, 1 or 2 little phrases that 18 court reporters decide they want to go and run and report, you end up with stupid conclusion that he was convicted of domestic violence when that's absolutely not even what the verdict says. So I do want to do if not a timeline, like a whole timeline, maybe that can be a graphic, but just a shorter summary of all the bullet points about incident by incident that Jabari claimed, the inconsistencies within each of them, and then March 25th, the car itself, maybe do a video on just the inconsistencies across all the testimony, and then the penthouse, what happens in the bathroom, all the inconsistencies there, all in one video per subject, crossing all of the testimony together. So I'll have to figure out the best way to format something like that, but it will come. And you guys, I totally welcome you. Any points you think are worth making, keep dropping them in the comments. Send me an email, send it to me on X, and we'll keep going from there. Again, I don't know if it's that important to get the other testimony transcripts. I would love to have everything for completeness, but it's like to spend $2,600 on to see the driver say that he was doing nothing, she was doing everything. I mean, that one line is enough. Like, I don't think we need to pay another $2,600 to get the next week, but we can consider it if people want to do it. Other than that, I'm going to end this one here. This was wrapping up Officer Swayne's testimony with a little bit of the body cam footage from Officer Hanson mixed in, so we could see how Swain looked when he was making the motions to his throat. If you guys are on replay crew and kind of watching this live, make sure you rewind, because the chat, not just me, the chat was really good at pointing out some weird moments in that body cam footage, and also some lip reading, where we can see that it certainly seems to me, I think it was Eliza that pointed it out, in the camera he's telling them, she scratched me. So take a look at that, pull the live chat up next to where you're watching to see what people were saying during the live watch of this if you're on replay. Great observations from you guys. I always appreciate you guys being here. And what did kind of say, yeah, she said something like, oh, if you can't trust the 18 actual court reporters in the courtroom or something, and someone's telling you to go and read someone else, you should probably question who has like the ulterior motive or something. Basically, the implication was if people are tagging someone like Danny Does Law when someone's asking for more information about the Jonathan Majors trial, Megan Cundiff is like, you should question that person for suggesting someone like Danny, and instead of the other 18 people that are sitting in the courtroom. So it was a real nasty comment from Megan, and she doubled down with some nastiness and accused us of being nasty to her on her YouTube channel. And now she's put all of the exhibits behind a paywall. I noticed that this morning. I noticed that before I had gotten the spoil. I've been doing the spoiler request since like the middle of December. But I noticed today, and I don't know if it was always like that because I don't remember ever checking, but I noticed it was paywalled, her exhibit. So I'm not a fan of her. That's all I have to say on her. Yeah, she said we were bashing them. It was just ridiculous. But yeah, so before I go into a tangent about Megan Cundiff, let me get out of here. I appreciate you guys for keeping me sane, and especially today being with me when I had to reconcile the whole bedroom debacle. You guys take care. I'll do a live to go through Strick's testimony. That one will be very short. But see you next time, you guys.